car, and you could just see Peter Zolder pushing Florian Lavigra right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's going to the right hand side, which is the inside going into turn 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Todt is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Todt has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Peter Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone up into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todt making his way back up, has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Zende goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todt passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain, up the mountain. We have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todt right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. He's gone off. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
Flying high above the beautiful mountainside out in Italy, we are out at the Mugello circuit. Welcome back, everybody, to Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. Another great day as we are about 9 weeks into this thing and things have been heating up for the AMX 5 Championship. I am Kevin Garcia. Joining me alongside in booth, we have Damon. Damon, it's been a crazy ride so far. I can't believe we're already this far into it. Like you said, there's only a few weeks left into this, and it looks like the lead for the AMX 5 Championship is getting a lot tighter. So I know last week, and just a quick recap, things definitely got heated up, even though they were cooling down on track. We had the rain coming out on the GTP cars for our AMX 20 race, which definitely stirred up a little bit of drama. But today, it looks like right now we are clear skies currently. But before we get into checking in on our racers, make sure to follow all of our social medias on screen, as well as check us out here every weekend for Twitch and YouTube. Also, you can catch all of the live streams replayed back on our YouTube channel as well. So, like I said, we have a few things to get into before we hop into today's race. Most notably, that being, we've been out here for quite a while. Well, like I said, it went by fast, but it's still been a little bit. May 25th is when we started Season 5, and we're going to be out here all the way through August 18th. This season's prize pool is $15,000 plus next level racing gear, and the AMX 5 races go as follows. We have our 20-minute qualifier, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going into that first heat of 20 minutes, followed by another top 15 reverse grid, finally hitting that second 20-minute heat. So for all of our drivers, driver cams are required if you want to get out on the track. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on our website. And payouts are done in balances over $100, paid out every single month. So once you hit that $100 threshold, that money's headed your way. We are out here every single Saturday and Sunday this season. So make sure, if you want to get in on the races as well, sign up over at amxrace.com, as well as get the full schedule on the website. Speaking of schedules, like I mentioned, we are here every single weekend this season, Saturdays and Sundays, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, followed by the second race at 7:20 p.m. And every other week, we're switching it up this season. We have AMX 0 starting at 5:50 p.m. on Sundays, followed by the all-new AMX 20, which, like I mentioned earlier, has been an absolute hit. So 7 p.m. AMX 20 every other Sunday. And on weekends like this, we do have a set of Corsa Competizione coming up tomorrow as well. So make sure that we have, make sure to tune in for that as well coming up tomorrow, where, like I said, Simone Seminara has been absolutely dominating it for that. But currently our prize pool comes up following AMX prize pool for Season 5. We have first place in qualifying getting $15, followed by second place getting $10, third getting $9, all the way down into 15th place. And it is very similar going into heat number 1 and heat number 2, with the fastest lap getting an extra $2. So coming to a total prize pool per race of $250. But if you want to get out here and win some money, it's a minimum road iRating of 2,000. So if you have 2,000 iRating, feel free to come out here. We'd love to see you out on track. So these are our current top 10 for AMX 5, starting down in 10th with Corentin Guinez, going up to 9th place with Simone Seminara, 8th Diego Villarreal, 7th Ralph Benitez, 6th Evandro Dantas, 5th Pedro Dean, 4th Gaston Culavi. In 3rd we have Bruno De Carmo, 2nd place Jackson Asenge, and in 1st, the man, the myth, the legend, Gael Valero, who's been leading AMX 5 nearly all season long. But we can see the pressure getting put on him by Jackson Asenge. We had Gael Valero miss a couple of races, and that left the door wide open. So Jackson Asenge slowly closing in that gap. So big thanks to our friends over at Next Level Racing. Like we mentioned, along with the prize pool, we have the season winners will be getting a GT Elite cockpit as well as an ERS3 seat. So the winners as getting one of the best out there in the game. So we'll have to see. Like we said, folks, there's a few weeks left to see who comes away with that top spot in the championship and be taking home that next level prize. But now I'm gonna head it over to Damon. Like we said, great cars, great track out here today. One of my favorite tracks. But Damon, what do we have going on out here today?
Well, Kevin, I can tell you that right now we are in Tuscany, Italy, on the track known as Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello, or Mugello for short. Based in Florence, Italy, opened in 1974. In fact, it just celebrated its 50th anniversary last month. About 5.2 kilometers worth of track, got a pretty long 1 kilometer straight near the start-finish lane. And of course, fun fact for you guys, this is the track that the Scuderia Ferrari race team uses to test its Formula One cars. As a matter of fact, it did in fact host a Formula One Grand Prix back in 2020. It was known as the Tuscan Grand Prix, and it was a pretty good start. And then I guess they went back to their regular scheduled calendar. But the cars that we are taking on the track this time around are not Ferraris, and I'm sure you'll be familiar with them as they come up on screen in just a moment. It is, of course, the front-wheel drive TCRs. Now, very, very well-known car in our AMX calendar here. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you all know, 315 to 350 horsepower front-wheel drive behemoths. A little bit of aero, a little bit of performance, 1,200 to 1,500 kilograms, sequential gearbox, and I mean, there's really not much else I could say about the TCR cars themselves other than we're extremely familiar with them here at AMX, and so are our drivers, which we will be taking to the track in just a moment. So Kevin, take us away for qualifying, please.
Yeah, so like you said, out here in the TCR, this has definitely been one of those categories of cars that has been heating up all season long. So I think it's safe to say that this has become one of the fan favorites. This, as well as the GT4 cars this year, we've had a lot of really, really close racing all season long. But seeing out here so far, like I said, we have the back and forth right now of Gael Valero currently leading the AMX 5 championship, but Jackson SNJ close on his heels. So you'll have to see exactly what Jackson SNJ is going to do to pull something out of his hat to be able to catch back up. He still has plenty of time, but right now, we're back into qualifying. It's slightly overcast out there, about 24 degrees out here today, so still a beautiful day. Lovely Italy countryside. This is probably one of my favorite tracks. You know, most of these you see a lot more with the higher downforce cars. We see a lot more of the F4 cars, F3, Super Formulas. So it should definitely be interesting to see what these guys do out here in the TCRs.
Yeah, and you can definitely see the performance of these cars is relatively middling compared to some of the other cars that we've taken on the course. Of course, the Formula One cars that Scuderia Ferrari use this track as a testing bed for. They'll probably pull very quick laps here, but TCRs, a little bit less powerful than that. Still around 2 minutes per lap. Very respectable. Two drivers, in fact, Gael Valero and Saavedra, have already cracked the sub 2 minute mark. So definitely drivers that we have to be looking out for throughout the race. And as you mentioned before, the battle between Jackson Resende and Gael Valero has been heating up to a point where they're only about 30 points clear of each other. So definitely one to look out for this one as well as the next one coming up after this.
And just a reminder, I think we had one of the best back and forths between Gael Valero and Jackson SNJ a couple of weeks ago when we were out at Interlagos, down to the final lap, all the way back and forth the entire last lap. And man, I expect to hopefully see more battles like that between our two leaders today. But like we said, we have the likes of Marcos Saavedra currently sitting in that top spot in qualifying. So we're not halfway yet. We're not halfway through yet. So I expect those times to change a lot. But like you mentioned, these guys blazing fast out here today, already being under the 2 minute mark under these cars. I was checking in during practice just a little bit, and it seemed like most of the guys were kind of settling in right around that 2 minute flat mark. So definitely we'll see with about 10 minutes left in this qualifying session just how much they can squeeze out of these cars.
Yeah, and the fact that Mugello as a course itself is quite a difficult course for some of these cars. There's a lot of sweeping corners, but there's also a lot of tight spaces, as well as the uneven nature of these corners with a bunch of elevation changes could upset the balance of these cars going through them. So it'd be interesting to see, because we've already seen a few drivers under steering as they're powering out some of these corners. So definitely gonna take a bit of getting used to, but if anyone can do it, it's definitely these drivers. And aside from Gal Valero as well as Resende, we definitely can't count out the other drivers on the grid. Of course, we have Gaston Kohavi, who's won a couple of races on his own, as well as Dino Filipa also. A bunch of other drivers here have definitely at least had maybe one race win, at least, but definitely going to be an interesting sight. As we actually see 3 Hondas on the track this time around. Diego Villarreal is driving one of them here, the Honda Civic Type R TCR car, and I know we see a lot of the Audis, but I'm definitely inclined to think that a Honda has a better design.
And I was just reading chat too, so I seen someone asking, did Dino Filipa win something recently? He actually did. So Dino Filipa was part of the Racing Prodigy draft, which drafted sim racers to be part of professional teams. So now Dino Filipa, we've seen him out here in the sim putting down some amazing lap times, being involved in some amazing races. So big shout out to Dino Filipa, who now has a professional contract along with another AMX veteran, Gustavo Ariel. So those two going to be teammates for Tubao Racing. So definitely make sure to follow those guys as well. I know we have a lot of these drivers out here too that we've seen already out in the professional world coming into here, into AMX. So definitely AMX, the home for a lot of these, as well as, you know, being able to see these guys grow their skills out here on track, being able to see that. I know their teams are out here, very proud of them too. There's been a lot of support outpouring from the community. So yeah, a lot of people, it's pretty similar to seeing, you know, what happened with the Gran Turismo. So now definitely with how big sim racing has been booming the last few years, it's great to be able to be out here. Like I said, just very exciting thing for the community overall, especially out here at AMX, being able to see it happen here first, going into these races after. So big congrats to those guys.
Yeah, don't let anyone tell you that sim racing skills don't translate to real life, because we've already been proven wrong time and time again by the drivers that are out on this grid. Not to mention, we've already had renowned world-class drivers on our lobbies in a couple of instances as well. Max Verstappen comes to mind. But regardless, this is definitely one of the best areas, training grounds for any aspiring drivers that want to see themselves grow as fully fledged racing drivers here.
Yeah, and speaking of that too, so I mean, just even all levels of driving. I've been in a couple other series with some guys that do out there karting at the highest levels as well. So it's really great to see those guys out here. So literally all the way from Formula One world champ down to just getting into karting. We have guys all the way from 16 to 60. So I think that's really the best thing about the sim racing community out here. And speaking of that, looks like Marco Saavedra, one of these drivers, he's able to start getting better lap time. So he's still in first place, but now able to best his lap time of 1:59.677. And speaking of people that we don't discriminate of how long you've been here, how long you've been into sim racing, whether you're a VR driver or a triple screen driver, Tim State, our resident VR driver out here, you can see looking very calm and collected, one of the only 3 Hondas out here on the grid today, and just looking at that dreary sky. So we'll have to see. Like I said, the clouds starting to roll in. It's good if it stays like this, because that means the track temps are down. We're going to have some blazing fast laps. But one thing that it's not good, I know these drivers might be getting just a little bit nervous if it starts raining again. Like we said, last weekend we seen for the AMX 20 races, once that rain started coming down, it definitely caused a lot of chaos. So we'll just have to wait and see if the skies will clear up or if these drivers are going to have to get those wet tires on.
Yeah, definitely will be interesting to look at. I'm going to knock on wood and hope that it doesn't, because we definitely want to see these drivers perform at their absolute peak performance here. As we can see, so far, no one else other than the top 3 drivers have cracked the sub 2-minute barrier just yet. So we've got about 6 minutes left in qualifying. We'll have to see if any one of them will be able to do so just before the end here. Maybe we'll have a nice surprise near the end. But Gal Valero in second place behind Marco Saavedra here. Pretty interesting result so far.
Yeah, like I said, right now, so, I mean, a lot of this, we always focus on who is winning the races out here, but this point in the season, once things are starting to get tight in the championship, so Gael Valero had quite a substantial lead over the rest of the pack, but like we said, he was missed about 3 races, I believe, that he was out completely, and that left plenty of room for Jackson Asensio to start reeling that in. So now, as much as excitement as it's going to be in each heat, seeing who's going to be battling for P1, P2, P3, it's definitely going to start being a little bit more exciting to see how these guys react once they know, all right, I was in a very comfortable spot, but now I have someone coming up. Another person, too, that we've seen as well, Bruno De Carmo, able to do really, really well these last several weeks and is coming up in the standings as well. So, like we said, we'll have to wait and see. Anything is possible out here at AMX. About the halfway point, it looked like Gael Valero may very well be taking home the championship. But at this point, with a few weeks left in the season, we just might have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we've got about 3 weeks left, and at this point in time, with how tight the points are between the drivers, I'm expecting the on-track action when the race actually starts to become a lot more intense, a lot more competitive. Maybe we end up seeing a lot more clashes between these drivers because they're definitely going to start bringing their A game if they haven't already.
One driver, I'm looking at the timing screen right now, I'm actually surprised we don't have out here right now, is Kieran Harrison. So I know Kieran Harrison been an absolute monster out here in the TCR cars so far this season. So he is not making it out here from what it looks like out on track. So unfortunate, as it always puts on a great show whenever he's out here on track. Definitely one of the best TCR drivers out there in iRacing. But like we said, today it's looking like it is all Marcos Saavedra so far. Just keeps getting faster and faster as the time goes on. So right now we have about 4 minutes left out in this qualifying session. So Marcos Saavedra is currently sitting in first, Gael Valero in second, and Dino Filippa in third place.
Yeah, and considering how little time they have left, you don't really have that many laps to get a good one in. So at this point in time, I'm kind of sort of expecting, like, if they're not already on a very fast sector, like you can see on the timing screens at the bottom there, the deltas are not really improving for some of these drivers, especially for the ones that we're looking at, in particular Gael Valero, that's still putting in yellow deltas, which means that he might not be able to improve on his current time. And considering that we're about about 3 minutes left in qualifying, I'm not sure that he actually has the time to go out and put another lap in time. So he is slightly improving. We definitely saw he was at a 159 8.831 earlier, down to 819. But it's only a marginal improvement. It's not enough to get him over the line there. And during the race itself, we're definitely gonna have to be looking out for these drivers, especially because Gael Valero and Saavedra will be starting near the back of the grid.
Yeah, and looking at one that I'm seeing now, which I think it might just be getting used to the car. Speaking of Bruno De Carmo earlier, he's been doing very, very well, especially the second half of the season, been coming out here, putting down some great races. But now he's currently sitting in 9th place, so we'll have to see. Like I said, it's definitely a lot different to come out here and get used to these front-wheel drive vehicles whenever you're driving a lot more of the rear-wheel drive vehicles. But like we said, back on board right now with Dino Filippa currently sitting in that 3rd place. Only the top 3 drivers so far have been able to set a lap time under 2 minutes. So definitely it should be interesting to see how this gets once we get into that reverse grid, especially for Marcos Saavedra, who is nearly 4 tenths under, well, let's see, he's 159.677. So Jackson Asenge being in 4th place now, only setting a 2-minute .39. So almost a half a second between the top 4 drivers. So with that just goes to show Marcos Saavedra definitely will have to keep an eye out for him, as well as Gael Valero, Dino Filippa. But right now, back to Gaston Kulabi, which we've seen, like I mentioned last week, we had the AMX 20, we had some of the Formula Vs as well for the AMX 0. So it's amazing to see these drivers get out there. Some of them that competed in both of the races. In the Formula V, of course, everyone knows that does iRacing, one of the base entry vehicles, one of the slowest vehicles, definitely not a lot of grip. You kind of have to really fiddle around. Great car to learn a lot of the basics. But then those guys hopping into the GTP, which is one of the fastest cars out there in iRacing as well. So great to see the versatility, and like we said, we'll definitely be able to see a lot of that coming up today. So make sure, folks, like we said, this is only race 1 of the day. We have another race coming up after as well. We'll see what happens out here. Evandro Dantas currently sitting in 11th place as well. So all of the drivers currently will be making that top 15 reverse grid.
Yeah, and earlier we saw Dino Filippa there. I think might have had an issue with his wheel because he started turning the car but it kept going straight. So he was a little bit incensed there, as we saw on the camera. He's not going to be out on track anymore, setting any more lap times because we don't have enough time. We've got about 10 seconds left to the end of qualifying. But he's going to be pretty happy with that third place, I think, because he'll be starting at E11 on the grid as well. As we're running out qualifying right now, I'm seeing pretty consistent times from everyone. But, of course, the top 3 times here, we have Marco Saavedra in P1, Valero in P2, and Dino Filippo running out the top 3. So they will be starting at the back of the pack, and we'll have to see how they manage to claw their way back to the front.
Yeah, definitely. And for the folks, well, you just seen a little snippet there. We'll bring it back up on screen later on for the live timing. But right here we have your BenQ session winner, Marco Saavedra, with an absolutely amazing 159.677. So like we said, he is far in front of a lot of the other drivers. Coming in second, we have Gael Valero, Dino Filippo in third place, and those top 3 drivers were the only ones to set a sub 2-minute lap. Jackson Asenge coming in fourth. Fifth, we have Gaston Culabi. 6th place, Pedro Dean. 7th, Ralph Benitez. 8th, Mauricio Lozano. 9th, Martin Chico. 10th, Evandro Dantas. 11th, Bruno De Carmo. 12th, Diego Villarreal. And rounding it out in 13th place, we have Tim State. So I see someone right there, chat. Marco Saavedra looking stone cold. He definitely looks focused. He is in this one to win it. So we'll have to see. We know he has the pace, but he has to fight his way through all of the drivers as we are gridding up for heat number 1, and that's a beautiful shot right there.
Yeah, definitely, and you already immediately see how low visibility is on the track right now. It could affect some of the performance of these drivers, especially for the first lap when all these cars are so close together. You never know what's going to happen. So let's wait for the drivers on the grid to load up and get ready for heat 1. We've got a lot of fog here. I'm afraid even we might miss some of the action.
Yeah, it's the fog is definitely getting pretty thick. I mean, I guess at some point too, it's, you know, a lot of the drivers, I guess you have to see if they would rather take the fog or the rain. I mean, you know, definitely the fog, it's harder to see, but you still got a lot of grip. It's still pretty cool out here. Obviously, we've seen a lot of lap 1 incidences going on so far, so we'll see if these guys can keep it clean as the green flag comes out. The drivers are off. Who gets the best start? It looks like Tim State is still holding on to that, but turn number 1, very wide turn. We have these guys now going too wide. Ooh, looks like someone getting a little bit pushed off the track there, a little bit of the squeeze, but now, man, the menacing look from these TCR cars coming over the hill, coming down now into turn number 1.
Yeah, looking clean so far. No one big incident. Tim State already lost the 2 positions, and he started from earlier on. I think this is Diego Villarreal next to him in one of the other civics. Already there's a spin, and Diego Villarreal, I think he made a swipe. Tim State, and that's forced another car off. Actually, more than 1 car off. In fact, I think that was Jackson, or either Jackson Resende or Bruno De Carmo that just went off in one of the Delita cars, and immediately turn 2 shenanigans coming in full force.
Man, and boom goes the dynamite right there, going to lap number 1. We've seen it a lot, but Diego Villarreal now sitting about halfway in the pack. Unfortunately, Tim State gets shoved all the way down into 13th place, so he'll have to fight his way back onto the grid, but that leaves room for Evandro Dantas, Ralph Benitez, and Martin Chico, your top 3. So right here getting really, really close between Benitez and Chico right here as well. So a little bit of a gap as now these guys going side by side. We'll see if they have enough grip. That's the one thing about these TCR cars, a lot more mechanical grip, and beautiful move right there by Marco Saavedra, taking advantage of that battle, seeing a bit of the door opening up and said, I'm sliding right in, boys.
Yeah, he definitely has the TCR cars under lock and key. Got a very good handle of him. In fact, he's already gained 10 positions since race start. But there is a bit of a gap to take over as he makes another pass on to Chico, making it look super easy. Martin Chico tries to go for the switchback. He's not close enough to make it happen, however. Immediately, Marco Saavedra down from P13 up to P2 in the space of around half a lap. He's got a lot of time to catch up, however, as Evandro Dantas, on account of completely avoiding the incident that happened earlier in the lap, is about 2.5 seconds ahead, but you can see just how quickly Marco Saavedra is closing the gap between them.
And I mean, right now, so it might be a little bit too early to be making predictions, but I mean, just seeing how Marco Saavedra was in qualifying, I think it's very safe to say that he might very well pull out the hat trick today, coming out here He was fastest in qualifying by a lot compared to most of the grid, and now he's just showing just absolutely how dominant he can be in the TCR cars, knowing exactly the amount of grip that he can get out of these things. So we'll have to see. There's a little bit of a gap between him and Evandro Dantas, so Marco Saavedra about just over 2 seconds behind Evandro Dantas, but with 8 laps left to go, and the amount, whoa, seeing a little bit of pushing right there from Jackson Sanchez, Gael Valero. So back to these guys now, Jackson Sanchez, Gael Valero, these two that have been battling it out for that top spot through 4 of the points throughout the season championship. Getting a little bit aggressive out here on track today, so definitely expect things to be heating up right here in the middle of the pack. I know these both of these guys too, a little bit slower in qualifying, but definitely have the racecraft to make it up onto the podium.
Yeah, and as a reminder, Jackson Resending is only a little bit under 30 points behind Gael Valero. So what Valero wants to do is definitely make sure he finishes ahead of Jackson Resending in order to keep his lead secure. Looks like he's having a bit of trouble getting past Resende at the moment. And of course, his other closest competitor right now, Marco Saavedra, is all the way up in front in P2. However, as we mentioned before, it's only the second lap, and Saavedra here has already narrowed the gap down from 2.5 seconds to less than half a second within the space of a lap. So this is just insanely quick for this driver.
Yeah, and see, one of the drivers that unfortunately was doing very well in qualifying, but now hasn't been able to make up too much room yet has been Dino Filippa. So Dino Filippa currently sitting in 9th place, only able to get up 2 spots so far. So definitely that is one thing with these vehicles, is you have to be very, very opportunistic, as it's pretty easy for seeing some of these guys defending out here. Well, I don't want to say easy. I mean, the level of caliber that these guys are at driving, it's not an easy feat, but they make it look easy out here. But definitely with there not being that much of a draft going on, minus the home stretch, definitely makes it interesting, especially right here going into turn number 1. Ooh, right there getting a little bit squirrely right there is Pedro Dean. So Jack Nisenge, Gael Valero now side by side. We have right here in the couple of switchbacks going, so we'll see Gael Valero just slightly edging him out in front, but Jack Nisenge looking to overtake him like you mentioned earlier, definitely wanting to get that, but Pedro Dean taking advantage of the fighting as well. Now looking just for any little mistake, these guys trying to play a bit defensively. So that's one place that is really hard place to be when you're in the middle, such as Jackson Senji right now, trying to overtake Gael Valero, but also wanting to hold off Pedro Dean. And while we were seeing that, Marcos Saavedra also able to finally get into that P1 position, and now Martin Chico overtaking Evandro Dantas. So just over the last few turns, Evandro Dantas going down a couple position, losing that top spot.
Yeah, and so now what Saavedra has to do is just start pulling away, and it looks like he's being able to do so quite effortlessly. And here we go, you can see the picture-in-picture that start of the race, you can see Diego Villarreal just pitted Tim State there, forcing him all the way to the back of the pack. He's actually doing quite well for himself now, out to P10, because 3 of the cars had to go back into the pits for repairs. And Bruno De Carmo actually is just completely out of the race right now. So it's pretty disappointing for Bruno De Carmo, because as we mentioned before, he is one of the drivers that are in contention for the top 10. And this race being over so quickly for him is just going to be a bit of a damper.
Yeah, so seeing that, like we said, seeing a lot of these guys in qualifying and now where they're currently sitting, but that's what happens. You get a bit of a racing incident up front, and you really just want to avoid that. Unfortunately, sometimes you can't always avoid it. Sometimes you end up going off track or getting a little bit of damage. So we'll have to see Bruno De Carmo now. He will be getting pole position if he stays in the pits out there, or if he comes back out. Right now, he's about 2 laps down. So we'll have to see. Like you said, heat number 1 in the bag for Bruno De Carmo. He'll have to come out here, heat number 2, come out to redeem himself, and I have no doubt that he has the skill to do it. But like we've seen, Marcos Saavedra, with just how fast he is, now fastest in qualifying and currently being the fastest out here in heat number 1. Now here we go back to Gael Valero. We have the train going, Evandro Dantas, Valero, Resenge, Pedro Dean. So definitely also Pedro Dean, just want to comment on, he's, I'd say, probably from seeing him in AMX every single week, one of the most improved drivers that I think we've seen out here. He did very well last time out in the GT4 cars, coming out on top. So very, very, very consistent. So definitely love to see what comes in the future, especially even next season. I have a good feeling that he will be one of the top contenders coming into next season as well. But right now, it is all Gael Valero, Evandro Dantas, Jackson Asenge battling it out. who's going to come out as we are almost halfway through heat number 1.
Yeah, you can see Dantas there, a little bit unsure about the lines he's taking. He's a little bit off the pace compared to some of these drivers here, and that gives Gal Valero the opportunity to make a pass happen. And I definitely agree with you on what you said earlier about Pedro Dean being one of the drivers to look out for. In fact, for the past season as well as the season before this, he definitely was one of the drivers that could be fast on a good day, but that were some incidents, could be attributed to luck, could be attributed to racecraft, that just didn't pan out in his favor. So definitely on a good day, he's one of our top drivers here, but he's gonna have to have a lot more good days if he wants to keep up with the cream of the crop here of Gal Valero, Kieran Harrison, and some of the other drivers that we have on our grid. But on the other hand, right now on screen is Evandro Dantas. He's actually probably gonna lose the drag race here to Jasser Resende. If Jasser Resende can get the inside track, by the time they hit turn 1, he might get that position in the bag, and it looks like he actually does make the pass happen just before the end of turn 1. This long straight here, definitely a boon for drafting, and Jackson Resende immediately makes the pass happen, which means Evandro Dantas has lost another position down to P5, and he's still not safe yet because Pedro Dean is right behind him.
So there we go, folks. Now we have your top 3, Saavedra, Chico, Valero, but the battle ensues. As we said, I think this might be the battle to look out for going in. Gael Valero, Jackson Senje, but now we see behind them as well, Pedro Dean caught up to Evandro Dantas. So Dantas falling down several places now. He's definitely feeling the pressure. We'll have to see if he's able to get his composure to say, all right, dropped a couple positions. You know he wants them back, but definitely we have Pedro Dean behind him, who also has the potential to get up onto the podium. So right now sitting about halfway right in the middle, Pedro Dean getting super close to the rear bumper of Evandro Dantas. So I think right now definitely Dantas just has to not make any mistakes for the rest of this position and that for the rest of this heat, and that's really what I think is going to come down to separating some of these drivers. Is great line right there from Pedro Dean, able to get super close, and now he's making the move on the inside, going to the left right here. So now we're going to this next right-hander. He'll have the outside line, but it's a long sweeping turn, so we'll see if he's able to get the undercut. So right on the edge of grip, not quite, just enough though to get up to Dantas, but he's definitely keeping that pressure on him. So we'll have to see if he's able to get close in now right before we head onto the home stretch, because that's really where a lot of these drivers have been making those moves, right on the home stretch going into turn 1. We'll have to wait and see if Pedro Dean does likewise.
Yeah, and the one thing that you notice about the cars like that, when Pedro Dean took the outside line, the understeer was definitely a real issue there because he couldn't get his car hooked in and locked into the apex to make the exit good for him. But still on the tail of Evandro Dantas, and Dantas definitely still feeling the pressure as he is slightly in the trap, but I don't think he'll be able to make the pass happen before turn 1. So he's going to have to look for another opportunity within the middle sector, which is a little more twisty, a bit more technical, especially when it comes to tracks like this. If you make a mistake on any one of these cars, it's relatively easily recoverable compared to if you were driving a rear-wheel drive car, but you definitely still want to be avoiding making mistakes still.
Yeah, definitely. So we've seen, like we mentioned earlier, TCR has become one of these fan favorites. I think a lot of these same drivers that have done well in TCR have done well in the GT4 cars. Definitely a little bit slower cars, but the racing has never been closer. And speaking of GT4, so we have another, also speaking of real life drivers earlier, we have another driver for those of you that don't know, Simon Demori, which we've seen out here a lot previously. Not quite as much this season, but that may be because the Austrian driver has been driving in GT4 cars this season in real life as well. So as much as we love to see him, we got to see him last weekend do great. Him and Peter Zuba out there in AMX 20 battling it out. Definitely great races out there last weekend. I wish I could have been here, but hey man, had other real life things going on as well. But like we said, one thing that we know, you guys seen it all the time. You've been here from the very beginning. We have, of course, I'm talking about our lovely Twitch and YouTube viewers. So big shout out to you guys. I feel like we got to shout it out for YouTube because I feel like without you guys, we definitely would have probably been canceled right here. They'd say, hey, no one's watching these videos. No one's watching these live streams. Get out of here. So big shout out to all of the chat. You guys are the real MVPs out here, as well as the drivers putting on a great show for everyone. So right now, here we are, guys, lap 6 of 10 in heat number 1. Currently, Marco Saavedra, Martin Chico, and Gael Valero, your top 3.
Yeah, Gal Valero that's cinching the fastest lap away from Saavedra with a 1:59, the only time a driver has hit sub 2 minutes throughout this entire heat. And he's definitely a man on a mission right now because he's right on the tail of Martin Chico here, trying to see if he can make it out to that P2 spot. And then they'll put it right behind Saavedra, as well as the fact that Saavedra really hasn't been able to pull away as much as he would like. I mean, the gap between him and Chico is still quite substantial, about 2 seconds. But I don't think it's anything that Galvalero wouldn't be able to make up. And we can see the picture-in-picture here is showing the battle for P6 is still going strong. Pedro Dean spearheading that train. So Mauricio Lozano behind it with Dino Felipa, as well as Diego Villarreal, who's actually, no, not Diego Villarreal, in fact, he's quite far behind. But the battle between everyone else is heating up, as this looks like more of a battle for P5 as a matter of fact, because Evandro Dantas is actually in front of that train.
Here we go, folks. So the battle for P5 ensues. Definitely going to have to be keeping an eye out for them. But right now, we have Jackson Asensio, Gael Valero, Martin Chico. So we'll have to see what these guys do. Is Valero right now very, very close to Martin Chico. So currently sitting in 3rd place. Gael Valero also doing very well during the qualifying, coming away with a top 2. So Gael Valero was 2nd in qualifying. Marco Saavedra was 1st. We'll have to see if that is a repeat of what we have out here in Heat 1. So we have just a few laps left to go, and it very may well be Marco Saavedra coming away at first, as he's already pulled nearly a 2.5 second gap ahead of Martin Chico. So right now, Chico, as much as he wants to close that gap, definitely is going to have to be a bit more defensive against Gael Valero, which will only let that gap get a little bit bigger. But right now, we see Lozano, Felipa, Dean, these guys right here got the train going. So a 4-way battle now currently for 5th place as well. As we see Gael Valero now making the move right here as we go down the home straight. Gael Valero out of the draft, coming out here, able to get in that 2nd place position over Martin Chico. So Martin Chico right there, a little bit squirrely out there on turn 1, 2. But here we go, guys, the 4-way battle. Looks like these guys are getting in the train, keeping it nice and safe out here. They know, all right, we got a couple of laps. It's going to come down possibly to the very last lap with these guys.
Yeah, and I'm starting to wonder if the fog may be slightly making the drivers a little bit nervous about making these passes happen, especially because you can't really see what's going to be in front of you very far. But Evandro Dantas still doing a pretty good job of driving a bit defensively, trying to keep Pedro Dean off his tail. And the battle between these two cars has in fact drawn the addition of Lozano and Dino Filippo. Has actually made a pass out to Lozano, as we were talking about here. He's going really aggressive there. You can see he's a bit shaky on loose, but definitely had the car under control. And taking the position away from Lozano here, it's going to put him in pretty hard contention for this P5 spot. Meanwhile, they're actually losing a bit of time to Evandro Dantas, who seems to have recovered his footing and is trying to be on pace with the rest of the drivers here. So we'll have to see if he'll be able to hold on to that all the way until the end of lap 10. My bet is on yes, unless a huge mistake or a huge opportunity presents itself.
And speaking of that, you know, one thing I'm still a little bit surprised is we've seen Marco Saavedra being so fast in qualifying and now taking it just a little bit easier. But like you said, the fog definitely shakes up the driver's confidence just a little bit. So depending on how well you know the cars, how well you know the track, definitely confidence has a big role to play out here, as the track temps have cooled down quite a bit. Earlier on, they were roughly 40 degrees Celsius. Now they've dropped all the way down to about 33, 34 degrees. So definitely the track has cooled down, a little bit more grip out there. And just as I say that, Marco Saavedra now setting the fastest lap. So 1:59.8, doing an amazing job. Only two drivers out here taking that fastest lap away from Gael Valero, who is still about 3 seconds behind him. So with only 2 laps left to go, we'll have to see is right here. Dino Filippo taking a peek to the inside, getting really close right on the edge of Pedro Dean's bumper, just giving him a little bit of a love tap, letting him know he's there. So now Dino Filippo putting the pressure on Pedro Dean.
Yeah, and we do know that out of the 2 drivers, Dino Filippo does have the better measure of himself when it comes to pressure specifically, and he knows exactly where to hit you, where it hurts, especially in a move like this. It looks a bit aggressive outside with an external camera, but when you see it on the bumper camera now, you definitely see he's got the measure of confidence here. As Pedro Dean A little bit shaky on the loose there. In fact, he scrubbed off a bit too much speed and immediately gets caught by two people, both Mauricio Lozano and Dino Filippo, just make it past him, and immediately Pedrodin's out of contention for this P5 spot. Now, Evandro Dantas, he's got under 2 laps to hold off the assault of Dino Filippo there with the dented rear end of his Audi, but Dino Filippo not giving up, and neither is Mauricio Lozano here.
So here we go, folks. Right now, lap 9 of 10, we are coming to a close of this final lap, coming up very, very soon. So we'll have to see what these drivers can do. Mauricio Lozano, the Mexican driver out here, showing a pretty good job. You know, like we said, we can see the damage from Dino Filippo right there on the back of his car. So a lot of these guys, one thing I love the most about the TCR, not just because of the close racing, but definitely these cars are tanks, so they can definitely take a bit of a beating without losing too much speed in comparison to something like an F3 car, F4 car, where you lose the littlest bit of aero and right there you're going to be falling down the grid fast. So definitely love seeing as we see the guys snaking a little bit on the home onto the home front. We have the white flag flying. Here we go, folks. Final lap. We'll see if Marco Saavedra able to hold on to that win. Like we said, so far looking like he has a hat trick in the bag out here today. And a beautiful move right there. Dino Filippo looking to the inside as we see these guys going door to door into turn number 1. A great move, able to keep it safe. And also following in behind him, we have Lozano. So Dino Filippo in front of Dantas now, but Lozano, Dantas going back and forth right here, door to door. Lozano slightly able to edge out in front of him. He's going to have to be very defensive now if he wants to hold on to that, because like we seen earlier, Evandro Dantas doing a great job. It's just those littlest tiny bit of room that these drivers have either been putting their nose in or just waiting for the smallest mistake and taking advantage of it. But there we go, folks. Dino Filippo now up into 5th place.
Yeah, Dino gave Dantas a little bit of a small shot there to unsettle his car and force him to scrub off speed so he can make the pass happen. But the pass did eventually happen. Lozano also sees the opportunity to make it up, ended up in P6 right now. So Evandro Dantas and Pedrodin, a battle that we've been noticing, we've been watching since the start of the race, is back heating up. But with less than a lap to go, we'll see if Evandro Dantas will be able to hold on until the end. Meanwhile, up in front, Saavedra is actually pulling away from Gal Valero. So Gal Valero, the driver we know as one of the best TCR drivers here, not being able to close the gap between him and Saavedra. And Saavedra looks like he's going to be able to cinch this win pretty easily as, look at Pedrodin here, trying to make a move, had the inside track onto Dantas, wasn't able to make it stick. However, they're still relatively side by side. But picture in picture, here comes the race winner, Saavedra, crossing the line there, just a little bit. And what an easy race. Well, it wasn't easy for him. He still had to fight all the way back to the front of the time, but he definitely made it look textbook.
I love how both of us have just said that this entire time of like, oh, these drivers out here easy, and then, you know, we have to correct ourselves of like, that's just how good some of these drivers are, though, is when they make it look that easy. It's very, very much, you know, quick to say, oh, wow, it's easy out here, but definitely it's not easy, because I know if either of us were out here racing against these guys, we would not be doing so well. But there you go, folks. Marco Saavedra just showing absolute dominance out here at Mugello in the TCR cars. So far, like we said, he so far got the hat trick in the bag. Fastest in qualifying. He won heat number 1 with the fastest lap, and now we'll have to see if he can have a repeat in heat number 2. What we like to call the AMX Triple Crown. Getting fastest qualifying, fastest heat 1, and we'll have to see if we can do it again for heat number 2. But as the drivers are finishing up the race, we have the results coming in now. Your BenQ session winner, of course, Marcos Saavedra, looking calm, cool, and collected. Stone face right there. He come out here to win, and he is doing that so far. Second place, though, Gael Valero, who also did the same in qualifying. Third place, we have Martin Chico. Fourth, Jackson is NJ. Fifth place, Dino Filippo. Sixth, Mauricio Lozano. Seventh, Evandro Dantas. Eighth place, Pedro Dean. Ninth place, Diego Villarreal. 10th, Tim State. 11th, Ralph Benitez. In 12th place, Gaston Culavi. And 13th place, we have Bruno De Carmo. So there are your results, as now we are gridding up for heat number 2.
Yeah, the ball looks like it's lifted a little bit as the green flags are off right now. Bruno De Carmo is leading the pack this time around. We'll see if he'll be able to hold on to that lead all the way past turn 1 at the very least. We have another driver right behind him. In fact, they're already pulling three wide as they're entering the first corner, actually, Bruno Carmo, probably not the best launch he had, but he's still holding on to that P2, letting Rafa Benitez in front of him. Diego Villarreal holding on to that P4 spot. Evandro Dantas losing positions yet again. He's now back down to P6. And Dino Filippa now on the charge, trying to make up for the relatively lackluster D1 that he had. He's already charging to the front of the pack, but we have to look at the man of the hour right now. Is Marcos Saavedra, made up 3 positions so far. We'll have to see if he'll be able to make it past the others, as looking at a pretty clean lap 1 so far.
So just to say that, I mean, this is the section that we had a little bit of drama last time, so we'll have to wait and see as they get through those tight ones. But now downhill into the S-curves right here. Definitely these guys are starting to get in line. So like we said, some of them definitely learning from their mistakes from heat number 1. And just a reminder, you guys can see the live timing. Scan the QR code on the screen and follow along. Get to see what we see out here in the announcer's booth. But currently, Bruno De Carmo, Gaston Culavi, Dino Filippo, we know these guys have great pace. These guys are great drivers, so we'll have to see if they're able to hold on to it. Is now, door to door, we have Pedro Di Martin Chico right there going very well. So definitely, we're already having a lot of drama going on as Bruno De Carmo able to take advantage of it now, slowly starting to pull away. Marcos Saavedra already making his way up, and we have a spin right there. There we go, folks. Gaston Culavi, unfortunately, getting into an incident right there. Not going all the way off the track, but definitely putting some flat spots on those tires.
Yeah, finally Chico took the worst of that. Got it back down to last place here, and the driver just went off. I think that was Evandro Dantas. Probably took a bad line there and forced off, but Gavalero is going to seize this opportunity to try and make space and go to the front of the pack. Saavedra is already way ahead of him, up in P6, made up 7 positions so far. Gavalero does have a lot of catching up to do, but he's doing a pretty good job at it right now as they're entering lap 2. He's up to P8 right now. We'll have to see if he makes it past everyone else as Bruno Carmo will be able to set the fastest benchmark of the race with 2:11. And right now, Dino Filippo charging behind him as well. He definitely wants a little bit of a redemption drive here.
Here we go into turn number 1. We have another couple drivers. See Tim State on the outside. So a couple guys right there, door to door in the middle of the pack as well. Diego Villarreal currently holding on to 4th. We have another spin right there. That's Tim State right there spinning out. So unfortunately, that is 2 heats in a row. Nearly the exact same spot in heat number 2 that he had an incident in heat number 1. So that section right there being a little bit dangerous out here today. Like I said, although the fog has eased up, the drivers have not. So definitely these guys being quite aggressive, but that's what you have to do out here in the TCR cars if you want to get up into podium contention.
Yeah, Diego Villarreal losing a few more positions. Meanwhile, Darcy Resende having to face our man of the hour there, a potential Triple Crown winner, Marcos Saavedra, staring down his rear view mirror. He's going a little wide wide there on the gravel actually, and he might be scrubbing off a little bit of speed. Saavedra there making the move happen. That's Resende trying to go for the switchback, not able to do so. In fact, Marcos Saavedra pulls the head of him and immediately makes it look pretty textbook in terms of overtaking. Now we'll have to see if he'll be able to pull away because he's still 2 seconds behind Pedro Dean. As Pedro Dean, I think he just went off.
Man, they're so right off camera. Pedro Dean unfortunately getting a bit loose there and now dropping down several positions. But like we've seen from Marcos Saavedra, already just lap number 2, he is up 10 positions. So Saavedra making this look way too easy out here, especially against such a veteran driver such as Jackson Asenge. But like we said, don't count Asenge out. He's one of the best drivers we have out here week in, week out. And there you can see first lap incident. Some of these guys getting a little bit squirrely. That's all it takes right there, folks. Just getting a little bit too close right there, pushing a little bit too hard. And sometimes you make contact with other drivers. Sometimes you get spun out on your own, but nonetheless, the result is the same. As here we go, Bruno De Carmo right here with Dino Filippo going door to door. Right here, the Delinta Esports driver as well as Sarge. So the 2 teams out here, South American teams, definitely everyone knows these 2 drivers. We've seen them time and time again. Dino Filippo up 8 spots. Bruno De Carmo, who unfortunately had to stay in the pits last heat, but was able to get pole now. Being able to fight, I think we're going to have this battle going on the entire time. So we'll have to see if Dino Filippo is able to hold on to that first place position.
Yeah, he's doing his best to try and pull away from everyone else right now, and this is the only real opportunity he'll get to do so, because once Marcos Saavedra closes that gap between him and Bruno De Carmo, it's going to be a very, very close battle for P1 here. But right now, the battle in that Saavedra is in is the battle for P4 here, as he's trying to pull away from Jackson Resende. Gap is still about half a second between these two cars right now, so at this point anything can happen. And God Valero is not that far behind. Remember, Jackson Resende and God Valero right next to each other on the drivers' leaderboards, and God Valero, his entire goal right now is to finish ahead of Resende. So will he be able to make it happen this particular heat? He did make it happen last heat, gaining about 2 points ahead, but he's gonna have to make it another one just so he can keep his position secure.
So here we go once again. The battle ensues between Gael Valero and Jackson Resende. These guys, we've seen them in Heat 1 going back and forth. Gael Valero able to come out victorious over Jackson Resende, get in that second place position in Heat number 2. So we'll have to see if Jackson Resende is able to hold him off this time. We've seen these two back and forth all season long, back and forth in points and on the track. It seems like, you know, nearly every race that these two are in, at some point or another, they're having to battle each other out. But here we go. Gets the draft. Gael Valero now looking to make the move, going into turn number 1, able to get in front of him, and now playing it a bit defensive in front of Jackson Resende. So we're only on lap number 4 of 10, and we've already had a lot of action out here, guys. So we'll have to see, though. Jackson Resende still keeping it very close if he's going to be able to make that return, be able to put it back to Gael Valero and take that place back. Like I said, folks, we're only lap 4 of 10 into this. Marco Saavedra now currently into 3rd place, already up 10 positions, but we know he's looking to make that 2 wins in a row. We'll have to see. We know he has the pace. We know Gael Valero has great pace as well. So Gael Valero right behind Marco Saavedra now, looking to hunt him down.
Yeah, and look at how close, how much Saavedra has closed the gap between him and Bruno De Carmo. Was about 1.5 seconds at the start of the lap, now down to about half a second. So you definitely know how much of a charge Marco Saavedra is on right now, and he cannot relent because Gael Valero is right behind him, his closest competitor in this particular race here. So if this battle drags on for too long, Gael Valero will seize the opportunity to try and make it a 3-way battle for P2, as Dino Filippo right now is still trying to pull away. In fact, he's doing a pretty good job at doing so. He's already 2.2 seconds clear of Bruno De Carmo. So Bruno De Carmo, he really has one job, and it's to slow down the rest of the pack, make sure that he doesn't lose his position.
And looking at the timing screens right now, we already have 4 drivers that have sub 2-minute laps. Only 4 laps into this thing, but also the track temps keep cooling down. Track temps right now about 27 degrees, so it's cooled down yet another about 6 degrees from the last heat. So these guys are going to be going even faster, have a little bit more grip. And definitely this is what we love to see out here. Is now Marco Saavedra looking to make the move on Bruno De Carmo. De Carmo may not be able to keep this out here. We'll see, as that draft on the home straight is pretty intense, but definitely Bruno De Carmo trying to keep the defensive line to the inside. We'll see how much grip these guys have, as Marco Saavedra trying to hold on to 2nd place, coming on the outside. It looks like he just might now, being defensive, now holding on to that inside line to the next turn. So there we go, folks. Marco Saavedra now able to make it up into P2, just getting over Bruno De Carmo, but he still has about 2.5 seconds to catch up to Dino Filippo. So now we are halfway through this race. We'll see if Marco Saavedra has enough pace in him to catch up to Dino Filippo, but just remember, Dino Filippo was 3rd in qualifying, so he definitely has the pace. He was only about 0.2 of a second slower than Saavedra in qualifying. So we might see if Dino Filippo has able to keep it on the track, able to keep things perfect out here, maybe walking away with the heat number 2, snatching that away from Saavedra. So it's definitely Saavedra's race to lose out here in heat number 2. We'll have to see what happens, though, folks, as Bruno De Carmo and Gael Valero right there behind him, battling it out. Definitely go Gael Valero to the inside, trying to make the move stick, but here we go, the switch back. Will Bruno De Carmo be able to hold onto it side by side, door to door? Just enough grip on the outside. There we go, Gael Valero holding on into 3rd place.
Yeah, and Gael Valero moving up, actually cinched the fastest lap last lap, because of how useful the draft is, especially on a track with the straight as long as Mugello here. 1.1 kilometers, definitely a lot of time to build up the speed and utilize the draft to its fullest potential. And speaking of that right now, because of how far Saavedra is from Dino Filippo, he doesn't have the same luxury as he did the last lap to make that dive happen. So he's going to have to make the time up on other parts of the track. And it looks like he actually is doing a pretty good job at that, because the gap between him and Dino Filippo is shrinking. Not by a lot, but it definitely is shrinking.
And so here we have Gael Valero, like you mentioned, currently the fastest lap, 159.2, so that was faster than anyone even in qualifying. So fastest lap of the day as the track temps keep cooling. But right here, beautiful job from Jackson Sanjay, able to defend off Gaston Coulavi right there going into turn number 1. Like we've seen all season long and even the previous seasons, Jackson Sanjay doing a great job of defending out here. One of the best defenders we see in AMX. I know I probably say that way too much. We have someone asking out here, do we have these cars in fixed setup? Yes, so a lot of these cars out here, we do have fixed setups. So we try to keep it up to what the drivers are, keep it on their skill, not how good the cars can be set up as well. And definitely it has led to a lot of very, very close races out here. We may have to see if that changes for some of the higher classes. I know that has been brought up before of AMX 20 to see, all right, we have these guys out here, some of the best pro sim racers. AMX 20, the stakes are higher, the payouts are higher. Maybe we should start seeing what these drivers can really do with the backing of their teams. But we'll just have to wait and see, folks. Like I said, AMX 20, all new this season, has been one of the, I'd say, probably the best classes so far in AMX. Some of the best races. We've probably seen the most highlights, and if you go over to our social medias too, you'll see pretty much every single AMX 20 race. We have some great clips from those. Also, big shout out to the great editors making those clips look great, showing off these drivers. But back out here, lap 6 of 10, right here we see Gaston Coulavi, Jackson Sanjay battling it out still, going out throughout. So we'll have to see. He might be in the draft as, ooh, great move to the inside right there by Coulavi, but that means Gaston Coulavi may not have the advantage of the draft anymore, so he might have overtaken just a little bit too soon. We'll have to wait and see if Jackson Sanjay able to take that position back.
Yeah, and Gaston Coulavi, one of the victims of Heat 1's lap 1 incident, ended up near the bottom of the pack and never really recovered, is also on a recovery drive. In fact, you could say that a lot of these drivers are having recovery drives of their own. We have Dino Filippo, we have Gaston Coulavi, we have Raf Benitez as well. And it's going to be a real challenge as to whether or not Resende is going to be able to make this position up, because the more positions he loses, the further the gap between him and Gael Valero will be. So he definitely wants to avoid that sort of situation from happening, especially when we have so few weeks left in our race season. Meanwhile, Saavedra here, doing his best to narrow the gap, is okay, making okay progress. In fact, the gap is now below 2 seconds, but he doesn't have that much time left. We've got less than 3 laps remaining. Gael Valero is also hot on his heels.
But here we go, the man of the hour, Marcos Saavedra, now closing the gap even further. So lap 7 out of 10, the gap is now under 2 seconds, about 1.7 seconds between Saavedra and Dino Filippo. So definitely we've seen calm, cool, and collected all race long. The focus has not left this man's face the entire race. And speaking of that too, I was like, I love seeing these guys looking at their room, seeing that electric guitar back there. So I'd love to see if some of these guys, showcase some of their talents out in our Discord server as well. But that's not what we came here for, folks. We came here for the racing, and now Marcos Saavedra has Dino Filippo right in his crosshairs. Only a couple more laps left to go, so we'll have 3 laps to see if he's able to close that down even further. Like we said, right now he may be sitting just outside of the draft going into the home stretch, but we'll have to see if he's able to just wait on it. Dino Filippo cannot make any mistakes right here if he wants to hold on to that first place position.
Yeah, not just that, he also has to make sure he stays on the pace, because you can see the time difference is slowly bleeding away for him, as Gael Valero with another fastest lap, 159.1. That drafting really does help in terms of setting fast laps, as Pedro Dean here trying to make it past Ralph Benitez with the Ralph Benitez into turn 1. Will be able to do so just yet, but Ralph Benitez taking that position back away from him. And another pretty close battle over the course of this entire race right now. The battle that we are definitely still looking forward to is P1 right now, because Saavedra from 1.7 seconds now down to 1.3, so definitely a lot of time being made up.
So here we go, folks. Pedro Dean now looking to overtake Ralph Benitez right on the rear bumper of him, so we'll have to see exactly if he's able to do that. Like I said, just a couple laps left out here. So Heat number 1 was amazing. Dino Filippa now able to get a great start. He was up 8 positions so far into first place, but here we have Bruno De Carmo as well, who, like we mentioned earlier, had an unfortunate incident had to go into the pits in heat number 1. Now sitting in 4th place, down 3 positions. He was on pole earlier, but he's still showing a pretty good pace out here. I know it definitely isn't, I'd say probably his most comfortable car out here. We've seen him in other cars, such as some of the open wheel cars that he's put great pace out here, but nonetheless, the Delinte Esports driver out here with his teammates as well. But Gael Valero in front by about 0.8 seconds. So we'll have to just wait and see what happens. Sorry, Gael Valero in front of him, 4.7. I was looking at the wrong timing. Gaston Culavi right behind him. So this is the battle that we're going to have to see right here. De Carmo, Culavi right here. Culavi making to look a peek to the inside, just staying on the rear bumper. So we'll have to see if he's going to hold on to it until they get into the home stretch with that draft. There we go, folks. Bruno De Carmo going to have to be very, very defensive out here going into turn number 1.
Yeah, lap 9 here, and Dino Filippa is still bleeding time. However, it might not be enough for Marcos Saavedra to make the pass on him before the before the final lap happens. Bruno De Carmo was swerving a little bit to stop Gaston Culavi from getting any drive from him. Seems to have panned out quite well for him. Ooh, a little bit of a love tap there from Gaston Culavi onto the back of Bruno De Carmo's car. This battle is definitely heating up as we're so close to the end here at race 33 of AMX Global Season 5. Ooh. Gaston Culavi there, a bit squirrely, a bit shaky, but he's just trying to apply as much pressure as he can as Bruno De Carmo, and Bruno is definitely feeling it right now. Another battle happens. Dino Filippa gets tagged by Marcos Saavedra and gets punted off the track. Ooh, I don't know how he managed to gain so much time ahead, but Marcos Saavedra just told Dino Filippa, no, this is my race to win, you don't get any.
And just as you're saying about that now, so Dino Filippa now down into 3rd place too. So I was taking a look at the timing screen trying to see exactly what was going on. There was, I was just checking their last lap, so seeing that there's about 0.3 of a difference in pace, and then all of a sudden I just seen the timing just absolutely drop. So we'll have to see exactly what happened to Dino Filippa there. Dino Filippa just getting really close. So from that angle, it's really hard to tell. I mean, you know, if that was a racing incident, if maybe Saavedra sent it a little bit too hard to the inside, you know, we'll have to leave that one up to our racing stewards to see if there's really anything out there of, you know, any penalties. But right now, nonetheless, that has left Marcos Saavedra up into 1st place. So we'll have to wait and see if that is the final result. Gael Valero now in 2nd place, Dino Filippa in 3rd. So there's still a close battle between these guys. That could have ended up a lot worse for Dino Filippa. Luckily, he's able to hold it, only dropping down into 3rd place. Still very unfortunate. You know, he really wanted that win out here, but like we said, definitely could have ended up a lot worse from what we've seen earlier on today. But with that, folks, the white flag is flying, and here we go. Turn number 1. Gael Valero hot on the heels of Marcos Saavedra.
Oh, yeah, there we go. I think we lost connection with Red Lobby for a little bit there, but the battle, as you said, is Gael Valero versus Marcos Saavedra here. Still about half a second between these two cars, but Gael Valero is slowly inching his way closer and closer. Draft definitely helps a lot. I'm still curious as to what made Dino Filippa lose so much time that he ended up right on the bumper of Marcos Saavedra, but can't dwell on it for too long. We'll leave the race stewards to make the decision later on, as Marcos Saavedra does not have a lot of lap left to hold on to this position. Gael Valero, the same goes for him, doesn't have a lot of time to mount an attack, and it looks like the gap between them less than 0.4 of a second right now. We're on the bumper of Gael Valero as he's slowly inching and creeping his way closer to Marcos Saavedra, but don't have to see whether or not, they're really close to one another right now, and it's really close to tell. I mean, here it comes. They're about to reach. I think this might be close to the home stretch actually, and Marcos Saavedra is still doing a pretty good job of defending. He has to make this a Triple Crown victory. Not a perfect. Gael Valero still holding the fastest lap for the time being, but definitely going to be a very, very big win for him.
And here we go, folks. So, like you said, it's going to come down, probably down to the last corner. We might have a drag race for the finish on our hands. Definitely just enough time. We'll have to see if there's going to be enough of a draft. Here we go, folks. Into the final corner, we have Marcos Saavedra leading Gael Valero. Gael Valero getting in right behind him. less than 3/10 of a second. We'll see if he has enough draft. It might not be it, folks. Here we go, coming across the line. Looks like Marcos Saavedra will be able to hold on. Gael Valero in second. Gino Filippo coming across in third. So a bit of a controversial win nonetheless, but like we said, we'll have to see. We have the stewards to possibly review what went on there. Also, we didn't get a good replay to be able to see it happened. Everything happened so fast right there. I mean, like we said, Gino Filippo over a second in front of Marcos Saavedra. All of a sudden, that gap closed at the blink of an eye. And unfortunately, those drivers ended up getting into each other. So now we see in the distance, back in the fog, Tim State now coming across the line. So a foggy race out here today, folks. Definitely another great one. I think TCR has probably become one of my favorite cars out here for AMX this season, as I know a lot of people out there, some of the drivers as well. So here we go. Right now, so far, your heat number 2 results. Your BenQ session winner, Marcos Saavedra, coming in first with a little bit of an incident there between him, Dino Filippo. Gael Valero coming in second, Dino Filippo in third. Fourth place, we have Bruno De Carmo. Fifth place, Gaston Culavi. Sixth place, Jackson Asenge. Seventh, Ralph Benitez. Eighth, Mauricio Lozano. Ninth place, Martin Chico. 10th, Pedro Dean. 11th, Javandro Dantas. 12th, Diego Villarreal. 13th, Tim State. And of course, Gael Valero setting the fastest lap out here in heat number 2. So Marcos Saavedra almost having a perfect race out here. He did get best in qualifying. He got best, he won heat number 2 and also winning heat number 1. So all heats, all qualifying, everything looking like Marcos Saavedra, only just shy of the perfect race. And I know that too, like we see a lot of the drivers out here, from speaking to some of the drivers before, it's always great to have a first place position, getting that win, but it's unfortunate whenever it is caused by a bit of contact. So we may have to see what the drivers have to say about that later on. But for right now, definitely Marcos Saavedra holding onto it, putting it down out here in the TCRs. We'll have to see if he shows up for the next race. So like we said, folks, we do have another race coming up very shortly as well. So don't go anywhere. So Damon, definitely, I'd say that was one of the more interesting TCR races that we've had. I don't know if I'd say the most intense TCR race, but I'd say that was definitely up there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always a good time to see TCR cars on the track, as we've seen a bunch of times. I was about to say 100, but I don't think we've had that many races. But regardless, it's still very intense racing almost all the time. We've had a lot of on-track action. We've got a lot of battles with P1, and well, I don't know, man. I guess we just have to ask the drivers how they feel about the cars in general.
Absolutely. So we're going to have to go into this, and let's see if we can get a word from today's winner out here at Mugello with Marcos Saavedra. So definitely, like we've seen, fastest in qualifying, got the Heat 1 win, got the Heat 2 win. A bit of controversy out there in Dino Filippo, but it's always good to hear from the drivers themselves. So don't go anywhere, folks. We are about to hear from Marcos Saavedra here in just a moment. So I'm joined out here with Marcos Saavedra. Marcos, you did absolutely amazing qualifying, heat number 1, heat number 2. Just to let the folks know, so what would you say, what was going through your mind when you just seen the fog roll in for heat number 1?
Yeah, hello guys. Well, I immediately knew that the track was probably a lot colder than before, so I just went out and tried to feel the track and you know, just on the moment.
And the one thing that everyone wants to know, what happened there towards the end of heat number 2? You and Dino Filippo ended up going, he had about 1 second gap, and out of nowhere we look and you two are into each other's doors. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, well, what happened there was that Dino made a slowdown on one of the corners before the accident. So I knew that it was like 1 second the gap between us. I knew he had a slowdown, and I just went for it. I think I had a lot of speed coming in. It was clear that I was gonna dive there, but well, it's a shame, you know. I really didn't want to make contact. I already told him I'm very sorry. You never won that on a race, but it's just stuff that happens. It's not up to me. It's not up to me to say who's at fault there, you know. But just went for it because of the slowdown.
Like they say, if there's a gap that you don't take, you're not a racing driver. You took the gap that was there. Unfortunately, like you said, it's always a bittersweet moment, but nonetheless, I don't want that to take away anything from qualifying heat number 1, heat number 2. You battled your way all the way through the grid. Once again, a big congratulations. We hope to see you out here the rest of the season, and we'll catch you in the next race.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Let me congratulate the rest of the guys on the podium. They were, like Gael and Dino, had great pace too. It was gonna be tough. It was a shame that it ended that way, but it is what it is. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you very soon. All right, there we go. So I love seeing that, especially once we get into the interview room, get to hear it from the drivers themselves, being able to hear the sportsmanship out there. So already apologizing, like we said, he just went for it, but that's what you have to do to win these races out here. So Damon, definitely looking forward to that, but looking forward to the next race. So tell the folks out here, we have the F4 cars, we'll get into that in just a little bit, but the highlight out here, what are you looking forward to next, coming up on our next race?
I mean, open wheelers are always really fun to watch because of how deliberate you have to be with your moves, and the track that we'll be on, which will be revealed in just a little bit, don't you worry, is going to be a pretty interesting track to see them on. And yeah, Formula 4 cars, not particularly high on power, but definitely still makes for some intense racing, and we'll see that happen in about 20 minutes time.
Absolutely. So like we said, folks, make sure to follow all of our socials. Make sure to check us out on Twitch and YouTube. We are out here every single weekend, but don't touch that dial. Don't go anywhere. Leave the stream on. We will be back very shortly with our second race of the day. Great race from the TCR cars, and I expect nothing less from the F4 coming up. So we will be back very shortly, folks. See you in a few.
we go racing for heat number 1 here in Austria. From AMX 20 in towards the Niki Lauda curve, bumping and banging and into the wall. That is a horrible crash. That's a huge lunge from Gaston Callavi, and he's made contact with, I believe, oh wow, it's a chaotic moment here. And slipstream in front for either car, and you can just see Peter Zolder pushing Florian Lamigra right over.
Here we go then, Valeri, he looks left, he looks right, he's going to choose the right hand side, which is the inside going into turn 3.
Here it is. This is the crucial moment in this race. It's looking like it's only going one way. David Dott is going to take the race lead. Heading into the second half of the season, the Hungarian of David Dott has driven a masterclass here with the early pit stop. Not the ideal strategy, but an ideal race winner and an excellent performance.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Peter Zuma into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Saavedra. He's gone off. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
And we're back. Everyone, welcome back to Season 5 of the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. As here we can see a beautiful overlook of the Circuit Zolder. We're out here in the F4 cars. This second race, we've had great races early on with the TCR. Now we'll see what these drivers can do with the F4. I am Kevin, and alongside of me, I have Damon up here in the booth as well. Damon, absolute great races going on already. Like we said, very close all the way down to the last lap. Had some last lap drama. What are you looking forward to see out here in the second race of the day?
I mean, the challenges of open wheeler cars versus the TCRs that we saw earlier definitely are a completely different set. There's definitely different things you have to consider when it comes to doing stuff like overtaking, drafting, and just general racecraft. So it'll be interesting to see how these drivers adapt from race to race, especially because the two races are so close to one another. Yeah, definitely going to be looking forward to that. And we have a lot more drivers on the grid as well this time around.
Yeah, it's looking like so far we're going to have a pretty stacked grid. But for everyone out there watching, make sure follow all of our socials, get some updates, highlights, head over to the website for the full schedule. We have a few weeks left in this thing, and the championship is getting closer and closer. We just seen Gael Valero, your current points leader, battling out with Jackson Asenge. So those two looks like are going to be battling it out for the rest of the season for that top spot. So before we get into today's races, we're going to give a quick recap of what we're going over. We are already more than halfway through. We have a few weeks left. We've been out here since May 25th. We're going all the way through August 18th. So this season's prize pool as well, $15,000 plus next level racing gear. We have our qualifying session of 20 minutes, followed by a top 15 reverse grid, going to heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by another top 15 reverse grid into that final heat number 2, which again, 20 minutes. So we got 20 out here in AMX 5 iRacing. These drivers we seen earlier, for any of those that missed the race, you're gonna have to go back and watch it whenever you get a chance. After this one, it was intense. But for all of our drivers out there, driver cams are required. We love seeing all of your beautiful faces out here. You can get the link on our AMX Discord or on the website, and balances are paid out every single month once you hit over $100. So once you hit that threshold, you're gonna get some money your way. We're out here every single Saturday and Sunday racing. Catch us live on Twitch and YouTube, as well as sign up anytime at amxrace.com. Like I mentioned, out here every single week in this season, Saturdays and Sundays, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, as well as a second race at 7:20 p.m. On every other week, we have on Sundays, we have ACC going on this weekend, but on the opposite weeks, we have the reintroduction of AMX 0 starting at 5:50 p.m., followed by AMX 20 at 7 p.m. And with all those drivers out here, if you want to get yourself in here, win some prizes, this is what the prize pool is looking like. Qualifying as well as heat 1 and 2. First place walking away with $15, second $10, third $9, all the way down into 15th place, as well as setting the fastest lap for heat 1 and 2, getting an extra $2 for a total prize pool per race of $250. If you want to get some of this money, make sure to join our races. It is a minimum of $2,000 for these AMX 5 iRacing races. So if you have that iRating and you want to get you some prize money, we'd love to have you out here on the track. So currently, this is what we're looking at for our top 10 in AMX 5. Starting in 10th place, we have Simone Seminara, who's been absolutely dominating it in ACC. You see, he's only raced 4, but he's won those 4. Dino Filippo, who we just seen earlier as well, doing an amazing job, sitting in 9th place. Diego Villarreal in 8th, Ralph Benitez in 7th, Evandro Dantas 6th place, Pedro Dean in 5th, Gaston Culavi in 4th, and your top 3. Sitting in 3rd place, we have Bruno De Carmo with 406 points. In 2nd, we have Jackson Asenge with 441, and sitting in that top spot, just edging out his lead a little bit more earlier on, Gael Valero with 473 points. So these guys right now, like we said, between Gael Valero, Jackson Asenge, that gap closed a little bit over the last few weeks. We have a few weeks left to see if Jackson Asenge will be able to take that top spot from Gael Valero, or if Gael will be able to get the back-to-back he won last season. We'll see if he's able to do it again. But speaking of that top spot, this is what the top spot's going to be taken home thanks to our friends over at Next Level Racing. We've got the GT Elite cockpit as well as ERS 3 seat. So definitely got to be racing in style, in comfort, get one of the best sim rigs out there. So big shout out Next Level Racing. That as well as, like we said, $15,000 in total prizes going out plus Next Level Racing gear. If that isn't enough to convince you, I don't know what. It's been great so far, and we'll have to see who ends up taking home the gear. But before we get into today's qualifying, Damon, I think this is definitely going to be one of those great car track combinations. We've had a lot all year long that have just complemented each other.
Tonight we are on Circuit Zolder, one of the two most well-known Belgian tracks in the world. The other one, of course, being Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. In the city of Zolder, opened in 1963, so about 61 years old. Not as long as the track as it was previously when we were on Mugello, but still makes for some intense racing. We've got a bunch of high-speed sections, 2 decently long straights, a high-speed bend, and a couple of chicanes. So definitely testing the mettle of the drivers who will be taking their cars out on track. Speaking of the cars, as we'll be cutting to the camera shortly, yes, it looks like a Formula 1 car. No, it isn't a Formula 1 car. This is, of course, the FIA F4 class cars. They look like F1 cars, but they don't have nearly as much power. They weigh about 570 kilos, so slightly under, about 160 horsepower coming from the engine. This displacements can range between 1.6 liters to 2 liters, depending on the manufacturer. But aside from all that, these are still open wheelers with a large amount of grip. Especially now with this little amount of power, you have to rely on mechanical grip a lot more. So, on the cars themselves, we've seen them, we've seen the track, and now it's time to take it to qualifying. Go ahead, Kevin.
Awesome, thanks, Damon. So like we said, now we're going to check up on our drivers out here in qualifying. We have quite the grid today already. About 18 drivers out here. We've seen a lot of these guys showing up earlier today. One of them being Marco Saavedra, who was doing absolutely amazing, just dominating out there in the TCR cars. So we'll have to see if he's able to do the same. But I see a few big names out there too. One of the guys that's been doing amazing in AMX 20, David Toth. So David Toth out there, as well as Tomas Simon, Gael Valero, Dino Filippa. So bunch of these guys we've seen, as well as a couple weeks ago, we got to see them out at Interlagos in the F3 vehicle. So a little bit more power, a little bit bigger car than the F4, just slightly, I won't say slightly more interesting races. I mean, these races are definitely very good, but whenever you add that much more power and put it on a Grand Prix circuit, it's always going to get just a little bit closer door to door. I'd say mostly the consequences are just that higher. But here we go. Dino Filippa, the Sart driver, who now that we mentioned earlier is one of these guys that started out, he's been in sim racing for a while now, having actual real life contract. And speaking of real life contract, this is going to be his real life teammate, Gustavo Ariel, the Team Redline driver, got picked up by Team Redline. It hasn't even been a year that he's been with these guys, and he's just been showing absolute dominance out here in AMX as well as out in the iRacing official races. So big shout out Team Redline, Gustavo Ariel. We love seeing these guys out here too. All of the AMX veterans, we have quite a bit of them out there. Diego Real, he's been with us a long time. We have Peter Zuba, Tim State. So most of these guys, they're no strangers to the track. They're no stranger to AMX, and we see right here some great lines by Gustavo Ariel so far. Currently sitting in 13th place, but I don't expect him to stay there that long. As we see now, Ralph Benitez has the fastest lap so far. Ooh, Gustavo just getting a little bit squirrely right there, but we're not even halfway through, folks. We still have a little over 10 minutes left in qualifying, so I expect a lot of these drivers now sitting kind of in the middle of the pack to be able to get up into the grid, make up a few more spots, but we'll just have to wait and see as traffic is getting heavy out there. Like we mentioned, 18 drivers out here on the grid today. Not the widest track out here. It is still a GP track, so it's definitely going to be interesting, but we'll just have to wait and see as these guys still trying to find every bit of grip on these cars.
Yeah, they've got a bit of time before the end of qualifying. Ooh, that's David Toff. He just scraped the pit wall a little bit there as he's coming out the start-finish straight. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that, especially when you're on the middle of a hot lap. And Gustavo Ariel, who very much losing grip with the car. And right now, like for these cars as well, they do definitely have pretty decent aero, but they don't have enough power to really utilize the speed that the downforce adds speed compared to the Formula One cars. They're big brothers, so a lot of it has to rely on mechanical grip, and these drivers definitely will have to adapt. As well as during the qualifying session, you still have to contend with traffic, so it will be a little bit difficult for some of these drivers. But one driver that's not really facing any issues right now is Ralph Benitez. He's in the middle of clean air. He's doing pretty well for himself, and he's got that look of confidence on him.
Absolutely. So Ralph Benitez, right now, the Delinte Esports driver, sitting in first place pretty comfortably so far. So he's about a tenth and a half over Dino Filippo, who's sitting in second place. But like we've seen a few weeks ago, these guys in the F3 cars, so these cars feeling a little bit more familiar, like we mentioned, a little bit less power than them. But I feel like definitely this is going to come to the part of the tracks where we have quite a few big straights on here. So on this track, definitely there's going to be a couple very prime overtaking points on there, and that's really where it's going to be these guys getting into the draft of one another, able to get into there. But I feel like definitely it's going to be who is able to control these cars more in the corners. We've seen earlier Gustavo Ariel getting a little bit sideways out there, that rear end just poking out just quite a bit. So definitely these guys trying to find the limits of these vehicles. But right now, here we see in second place Dino Filippo. Looks like Peter Zuba able to get up now, besting his lap time, now sitting in 8th place as well. So these drivers now sitting closely, about a minute and a half seems to be the pace out here today. It is a little bit warmer. It's about 32 degrees out here. Track temps are right under 50 degrees. So not quite as much grip as these guys would like, especially earlier we seen had a lot of overcast skies out in Mugello. Out here it is bright and sunny. It is hot. The heat is beaming down. So we'll have to see. 20-minute races might not quite be enough for tire degradation to really come into play here, but we'll have to wait and see. Towards the end of the race, it should get interesting with those tires.
Yeah, it's going to be at a point where like these drivers really have to be careful of the lines they're taking, especially when it comes to the chicanes and corners where you would normally abuse a lot of the curbing in order to get the best line through. And in these cars, especially some of these curbs, there's little bumps on them. You see them as Martin Chico is going over there right now. If you take that angle wrong, you end up flying, and you definitely don't want your car to be airborne because you need those wheels to turn, to steer, to point you in the right direction. So definitely have to be careful in terms of attack patterns. Aside from that, of course, the cars aren't too powerful, but they can still get up to a pretty terrifying speed, especially when you're sitting so low in the car. So definitely gonna be interesting, as well as the fact that you do have to set a very fast lap, and it matters a lot, especially in this particular qualifying session, because if you're not in that top 15, you don't get grid shuffle. You still end up at the back of the pack.
And for those of you, so if you take a look at the track map out here, this track is definitely very interesting because, you know, a lot of tracks we love to see that have just a little bit of everything. This one definitely has a lot more high-speed straights as well as quite a few chicanes in here. So just that introducing, you know, having, what is that, I believe about 3 chicanes out here on this track. So definitely more than the average track. Gonna make it pretty interesting when these guys try to go side by side going into there. So it's really great when we've seen, you know, a track a couple weeks ago, such as Interlagos, where it has a bit more of those S curves, a bit more sweepers, rather than these sharper chicanes, as well as we have a very tight hairpin in one of these corners. So definitely there's going to be interesting things. We'll have to see if these drivers are able to keep it clean. Like we said, it's a bit hot out here today. They're already pushing it to the edge of the grip of these tires and these vehicles. Now we see there Jackson Asenge able to get a better lap, going up into 7th place, a 1:30.854. So he's sitting comfortably right in the middle of the pack. We'll see. We have about 6 minutes left, just under 6 minutes, to see if these drivers can get any better time. So right now it is first place Ralph Benitez, second Dino Filippo, and third David Toth.
Yeah, and you can see on the camera right now that it's quite easy to unsettle these cars, especially for turn 1, because coming straight out of the start-finish straight, you have a really sharp, almost 90-degree left-hander, which can really upset the balance of the car. So you don't want to end up putting tires on the gravel because you just end up scrubbing a lot of speed. And you mentioned the fact that Zolder has a lot of chicanes that break up the high-speed sections of the course, and it'll be interesting to see adaptations that these drivers will end up making if they want to do any overtaking maneuvers in these particular areas, because as you said, because of how slow the chicanes are, exit speed matters a substantial amount.
Yeah, right there, as we can see on board of Gaston Culavi, as you just mentioned, those exit speeds. So coming out of some of these chicanes, especially coming out of these large sweepers, I expect we're going to see a lot of side-by-side. These guys trying to just hold on to grip on the outside through some of these bigger turns. But also right here, we can just see from the onboard of Gustavo Ariel, a few of these curbs a little bit aggressive. So we might have to see if these guys are trying to dive to the inside and they put their nose where there's not quite enough of a gap, they might just get shaken up and thrown off the track. So we'll just have to wait, as they'll be pushing it very hard, but definitely having to still be quite careful on a couple of these chicanes. But now Gustavo Ariel sitting in 4th place. So we've seen him earlier. I love seeing these guys, especially my favorite thing with the F4 cars is not the most amount of power downforce, a lot of balance in the car, being able to really see them right on the edge of that neutral steer, just, you know, what some people call that 4-wheel drift, right on the very edge of grip, pushing all 4 tires out to their very limits. But here we have Tomas Simon now sitting in 2nd place. So just like that, the grid is already shaking it up under the final 5 minutes. We see more people going up, Pedro Dean up again. So we'll have to wait and see. As like we said, about 1.5 minutes laps, these drivers still have a few laps left in the tank.
Yeah, so I'm reading the comments right now. Someone was asking what sort of engine these cars run. In the real world, these cars would be running a variety of different engines depending on the manufacturer. But in general, they're inline 4s. 1.6 liter to 2 liters is usually the displacement that they would go for, and the engines could either be turbocharged or naturally aspirated. But for these particular cars in iRacing, they're completely standardized. Not entirely sure what the displacement is, but the power is the same, the setup is the same, the design, the aerodynamics are all the same. So this entire class of racing is entirely up to driver skill.
Right there, yeah. I think most commonly a lot of the ones that I'll have to verify, but I know a lot of these are based on the 2-liter Honda engine. But we'll have to see, like I said, we'll have to go check with iRacing, see, hey guys, which one did you guys model it after exactly? But I think that's a great thing, like you mentioned, of these being pretty much a spec class out here in iRacing, especially whenever you see the vehicles in a fixed setup, is it really comes down to driver skill at the end of the day. Not who has the best setups, not who has the best engines, best cars, best engineers. Comes down purely to the same car on the same track with different drivers, pushing it to the absolute limit, especially when you have guys out here, you know, we've seen plenty of guys 8, 9, 10, 11,000 I-rating out here just being absolute beasts in these vehicles. So definitely my favorite part of being able to commentate for AMX is seeing a lot of these pro sim drivers coming in week in and week out. And speaking of one of the pro drivers, we have Gael Valero, who's doing amazing in the TCR at quite a bit of pace, ended up setting the fastest lap on that second heat. But now the pressure is on as we have quite a bit bigger grid out here substantially, but I still feel the pressure is no stranger to Gael Valero, as he's currently sitting in 7th place, still in that 1.5 minutes, only about a little more than a 1/10 of a second off of that top spot. So I expect once this reverse grid hits, these drivers definitely have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, we've got about a minute left in qualifying, and you definitely mentioned the start of the race is going to be extremely tight because this isn't a particularly wide course. Ooh, Valero there, nearly dodging an incident. Oh, not really! He actually just crashes into another car. That's his lap completely ruined there. Lost both of his front wheels pretty much, and he's going to have to go back to the pits because that is pretty much his qualifying session completely done. I wonder who it was that he actually crashed into. But it really doesn't matter right now. He's already set his time. David Talk has squirreling his way to the end of his lap. We'll be going back to the pits after this. And man, if this is already an indication of what's going to happen during the race itself, we're going to be running out of our voices pretty soon.
Man, just like that, we've seen it's only qualifying and these guys already pushing it beyond the limits, and sometimes the limits bite back at you, just like we've seen getting into the other people, getting sideways. And like I said, with this many drivers out here, if someone in front of you makes a mistake, it's gonna be very hard to avoid it like that. So luckily this is only sim racing, and something like that in real life definitely would have been quite dangerous. So glad that these drivers are all okay out here. So we'll have to see, though. As we know, Kyle Valero looked like he was hitting a better lap than his previous qualifying. Unfortunately, had to come to a stop. But here we go, folks. Your BenQ session winner for your qualifying. We have Ralph Benitez sitting in that top spot, followed by Tomas Simon in second, Dino Filippo third. Fourth place, we have Bruno DiCarlo. Fifth, David Toth. Sixth place, Gustavo Ariel. Seventh, Guy Valero. Eighth, Jackson SNJ. Ninth place, Pedro Moura. 10th, Pedro Dean. 11th, Marcos Saavedra. 12th, Peter Zuba. 13th, Gaston Kulavi. 14th, Artin Reutemann, just barely making it onto the reverse grid. We have Martin Chico. So unfortunately, we have 3 drivers not able to get on there. They're going to be starting from the very back. Tim State, Evandro Dantas, Diego Villarreal. Those drivers absolutely have their work cut out for them. But just seeing our top 13 drivers, less than a second between all of those guys, about a little more than 0.8 of a second between that 9th place and the winner. So I expect these guys, we'll have to see 15th place. You know, those guys doing great. Ralph Benitez, Tomas Simon, Dino Filippo. We'll see as we're gridding up. Moments away from the green flag out here at Zolder.
Yeah, Martin Chico going to be spearheading the pack in pole position right now. We're still waiting for a few cars to load in, but we'll be getting into the race really soon. And yeah, considering how narrow the track is, you can already see from the cars, there's not really that much room to maneuver, especially when they start the race. So this is definitely going to be an interesting one.
So we have just a few more people that waiting to grid up. Definitely, like we said, the hotter temperatures, these guys not going to have as much grip as they'd hoped for. Forecast says partly cloudy, but it's still very hot and sunny out here. We'll see. Martin Chico, we have the 3 Argentinians up on the grid waiting to go. Will they be able to hold on to it? As here we go, folks. The race is off. The drivers getting a great start. Looks like a lot of drivers from the middle of the pack getting amazing start. So we'll have to see as we're already 2 wide going into turn number 1. That's going to be a bit dangerous out here on these cold tires, even possibly 3 wide out there in the mid-pack. This is definitely going to get interesting. Someone's already off right there. We have, and coming back onto the track, going into another driver. That is Ralph Benitez into Dino Filippo. So Dino Filippo was looking to have a promising race, now getting taken out. Unfortunately, going to have towed back to the pit. So there we go, folks. First lap incidents already going on. Things are already getting a bit heated out here. We'll have to see what happens if these drivers keep it going.
Yeah, that was already a big accident just off screen there. I think that was David Toth completely on his roof. That's another unfortunate incident. That's another lap 1 incident, picking out another driver. I was going to say Ralph Benitez looked like he was sliding on gravel there as he ended up rejoining the track at a really unsafe angle and just wiping out Dino Filippo. We're going to see some of the cars that is
Really to see the replay right there. Benitez, Filippo. So it looked like, just right there on Benitez, Filippo. So those guys, yeah, there was a bit of contact before going into the corner that just unfortunately shunted him out. And once you're there on the grass into the gravel, you're kind of a bit of a passenger. You can't really do anything except hope that you don't go into someone. But unfortunately, that's just what happened. So right now, we have Gaston Kulavi, Artin Reutemann, Peter Zuba up in the front of the pack, leading into lap number 2.
Yeah, apologies for that. My internet just decided to cut off for no reason at all. But I'm back, and I hope that I didn't miss too much. In fact, it looks like I missed quite a bit. Why are 5 drivers in the pit lane right now?
So we had just a little bit, a lot of those too were just some of those drivers from that first couple incidences, just still had a bit of damage, and unfortunately they had to go into the pits. So didn't miss too much. You caught the big ones. Right there, David Toth, just right there. We seen getting a bit squirrely, just that little tip, and unfortunately the car goes end over end, getting up on the roof. Like we said, luckily this is only sim racing. That would have been a very nasty one out here. That would have possibly been a yellow flag. Definitely at least a yellow flag in real life. But luckily, like I said, these drivers, 5 drivers had to go to the pits. 2 of them still now, David Toth, Dino Filippo still sitting out in the pits. So that might be the race for them out here in heat number 1.
Yeah, and out of all of that right now, we're looking at how quickly the drivers in front are switching positions. Marcos Saavedra is already up into P2. Artin Reutemann holding on to that P1 position. We have Peter Zuba and P3. Jackson Resende doing pretty well for himself up at P4. Again, same situation as it was in the last race, where Gaio Valero will have to see if he can try to finish ahead of Jackson Resende and make sure that he keeps his position secure in the top 10 rankings right now. And as we saw earlier on in lap 1, these cars definitely, the moment they get unsettled, it's just, it will go wild, and you definitely won't be able to control it when it happens.
So right now we see the number 7 of Pedro Dean also going into the pits. So like I said, those incidents going on right here. We see what happened earlier, Gustavo Ariel. So right there, just going to the inside, and ooh, just a little bit of contact right there on the rear wheel, unfortunately sending him spinning. And there we go, folks. 2 cars right there, just like that. The littlest bit of contact sending them both off the track, pretty much into the wall. But unfortunately, those guys having to pit at the end of that lap to get those repairs done. And now, like I said, I feel like a lot of these guys, unfortunately, we had way too many drivers out here getting caught up in lap number 1 and 2. So we'll have to see that. They'll have to be fighting for that P15, though. Like we said, folks, you have to be P15 or better to end up on that reverse grid. So right now, David Toth, Dino Filippa, looks like they are just outside of that. Gustavo Ariel also still in the pits. So we might have some battles going on at the back of the pack trying to get on there just so that way they can secure pole position for heat number 2.
Yeah, and we're seeing right now that the top 7 drivers are very close to one another, but then the gap just starts really extending after that, after the fact. And Eder Reutemann is still holding off Marco Saavedra right now. The gap was substantially less than it was at the start of the race, and looks like Saavedra has the drive. He's going to try and make a pass into turn 1. Looks like he's able to hold it as he has the outside line, but you have to be very careful when your car is going over that curve there, and you want to avoid as much contact as possible because these cars are particularly fragile and they do not like contact with other cars.
So there we see, folks, Marco Saavedra was doing it big in the TCR cars earlier today. Now he is leading the race out here in the F4s. Oh, a few people right there. We see the Delente Esports driver Jackson Senja getting a little bit too wide going out into the gravel. So these guys lining up. Like we mentioned, there are plenty of places for the draft. Ooh, a little bit of contact right there. Gael Valero going for the overtake over Kulavi. Just has a little bit of contact, but still able to keep it in front of there, able to keep all 4 wheels on the ground. So they're going to stay in there. Gael Valero now holding on to that 5th place position. Tomas Simon overtaking Gaston Kulavi, though. So we'll have to see if Tomas Simon able to hold on to it. We know he's going to be trying his best to make his way up through the grid. So far, he's already up 7 positions.
Yeah, Peter Zuba still holding on to that P3 spot, but Jackson Resende is hot on his heels, and Gael Valero isn't that far behind, about seconds separating them. And this battle will probably slow them down enough that Gael Valero will be able to keep up. And you can see right now, onto the back straight, these cars are rapidly approaching about 200 k's as they're going into the chicane. So you're going to have to be very careful about your braking points, especially when you're this close to one another. If someone brakes too early or brakes too late, they will end up in the back of each other. And with these cars, they'll probably both end up out of the race. But keeping it nice and tidy so far are these drivers as they're coming back into next lap here. Lap 5 out of 13. We're almost halfway through. And it really feels like time kind of flew because I wasn't really aware that we were already on lap 5.
Yeah, these laps are absolutely blazing, but like I said, when your drivers are out here setting just about a minute and a half per lap, I mean, definitely, it doesn't feel that long, but hey man, a minute and a half, I guess depending on the track too, but this track with so many straights, only broken up by those chicanes. Definitely so far, we knew it was going to be dangerous going on into here, especially some of these chicanes that have those really high curbing. And so far, that has taken out about 5 drivers now, down 1 lap. So we'll have to see again, like we said, later on what happens. Those drivers are going to be fighting for that P15 going on, which currently looks like Tim State is holding on to that P15. So he is still safe right now. But here we go back to the front of the pack. Marco Saavedra, Ayrton Ruitman. We have Pedro Zuba trying to battle off Jackson Senja. So here we go, folks. Side by side. Jackson looking for the inside movement. Oh, no! Just unfortunately, looks like he got caught up in the wheels of Pedro Zuba. So unfortunately, sending him off into the grass like a Beyblade. There goes Jackson Senja. That might be his heat number 1.
Yeah, he lost his rear wing there, and that's a really substantial part of the aero for these F4 cars. And I'm not gonna lie, I saw that incident come from a while ago when he went for the dive. He was really brave, but unfortunately it did not pay off. So now he's going to go back to the pit lane. He's going to lose a bunch of positions. Guy Valero now up to P3, so he's going to have a bit of time to try and chase down the race leaders right now.
So man, this track, it's just showing just how dangerous it can be out here. So not too wide, but right here we see Jackson Sanjay trying to make the move on the inside, and just like I said, just barely clipping the tire of Peter Zuba. So I mean, from that angle, like we said, it looks like he may have dove in just a little bit, but it didn't look like from when it was happening live that they were that close. So we'll have to see if that was a bit of netcode going on there, or if Jackson Sanjay just took that a bit too hot and unfortunately ended up running wide out into Peter Zuba. But nonetheless, it was still the same result. Jackson Sanjay getting sent down the grid. And here we go, folks. Bruno De Carmo looking to overtake Peter Zuba. So although that could have ended up a lot worse for Peter Zuba, he's still trying to hold on to that 4th place position. Still a little bit of a gap between him and Guy Valero, but Bruno De Carmo going to the outside, looking to make the move. Will he make the same make as his mate? Oh, I can't even talk, man. There's so much going on, but no, he does not make the same mistake as his teammate. He's able to get that clean, and it looks like Peter Zuba ran just a little bit wide, knowing that he has the draft out here. So I feel like this is going to be a lot of back and forth. These drivers really looking for that opportune moment. Do I try to overtake on the straight? Do I try to wait, be patient, or do I attack going into those very dangerous chicanes out here? As we see Ayrton Reutemann now, Marcos Avenger going wide, Marcos Avenger going off into the gravel. We'll have to see what happened there, as now he had to give up a couple positions, ends up sliding off, able to rejoin the track safely. So now he's going to have to battle his way up from 3rd to get back onto that top step.
Yeah, I think what had happened there was that you saw him take the really wide line out into that left-hander, and I guess he just exceeded the grip limits of his tires because he ended up not being able to correct himself and just went way off. Scrubbed a lot of speed, but still in the top 3, however, he was pretty comfortably ahead of P4, so still in a pretty good spot. He has all the time in the world to try and keep up. But of course, we're going to have to make sure that the tire degradation doesn't adversely affect this car too much, as now the battle for P1 is between Ayrton Reutemann and Guy Valero. And Guy Valero, placing 2nd pretty much throughout the entire race day today, is going to try and change his luck with that P1.
Here we go, folks. Guy Valero, your AMX 5 championship leader this season, going on and looking to make it one more win in the bag. So we'll have to see as we're about halfway through this race. Guy Valero now getting into the draft of Ayrton Reutemann, going to the outside. Reutemann doing a great job being defensive, but Guy Valero, looking like he was right into that tire, so almost tapping him going into that chicane. Now still holding on to 2nd place, but like we said, Marcos Avenger we know has amazing pace. We'll have to see if he's able to go out, as now it's getting really close. We have a 4-way battle up towards the front as well. Bruno De Carmo getting involved there, really close on the rear end of Marcos Saavedra. So we've seen last lap Saavedra going a bit wide out here. Now he's playing it a bit safe, but that leaves the door wide open for Bruno De Carmo to go into 3rd place. So Marcos Saavedra now going to have to get back into the draft, but he's going to have to start playing defensively as well, as we have Thomas Simon, Peter Zuba, Gaston Coulavi, these guys not too far behind him. So the 2 drivers behind him, though, Simon and Zuba, definitely have the pace to put up a great battle as we're going back onto another straight. Here we go, folks. Guy Valero looking for the move over Ayrton Reutemann. He has it going into the chicane. So now Valero, your new leader.
Yeah, Valero went really brave with that really late braking from him. Paid off for him, and yeah, but Reutemann's not going to give up that lead without a fight. So entering the next chicane, Reutemann has the inside track, but Bruno De Carmo was being slowed down by Reutemann's car. And Reutemann there, not really having the best exit, ends up scrubbing quite a lot of speed, giving space for Bruno De Carmo to come in and try and swoop in, taking that position away from him. Reutemann not giving it up without a fight. This battle for P1 right now is 6 cars to fall. It's going to be so close, and honest God, I'm hoping that nothing ends up really happening that puts any of these drivers out of the race, because this is some extremely close racing that we haven't seen for a very long while.
So this is one of my favorite things about open wheel cars just like this, is just having just enough grip where you're able to go 2x2 through the chicanes, especially put in the hands of these amazing drivers. These guys absolutely pushing it to the limit, seeing how close they can get to one another. We've seen some incidents earlier on, but right now this is some of the best racing in these F4 cars that we've seen all season long. So right now Guy Valero able to get just a little bit of a gap, but like you said, Ayrton Reutemann still able to have enough feet in the draft, trying to battle off Thomas Simon. Thomas Simon already up 11 positions from where he was earlier on, being know he has the pace from where he was in qualifying to get the win out here in heat number 1. So we'll just have to wait to see. But Arjen Rootman doing an amazing job of defending, and we have one of the best drivers in MX, Gael Valero, in front of him that he has to battle off eventually, take that top spot.
Yeah, and you can see these cars are really almost all over the track right now, utilizing as much of the track width as possible to end up in an advantageous spot. In fact, Thomas Simon, who was at the back of that battle for P2 at the time, suddenly just jumped up 3 places, seizing every opportunity he could in order to make a pass happen. And it looks like he's about to make another one happen onto Reutemann. Reutemann's still very stubbornly trying to hold on to that position right now, but Thomas Simon looks like he has the inside track. Will he send it? No, it looks like he's keeping it clear right now as they're coming into the next straight. And look at that, Thomas Simon making the pass onto Reutemann, and he's now spearheading this 5-car train. Now, or should I say 6 cars? There's actually 6 cars on the train right now, all the way into lap 9. We've got about 4 laps left, and this race is definitely heating up.
There we go with those guys battling it out now. It's left room for Gael Valero to have almost a 3-second gap ahead of Thomas Simon. So Gael Valero, with only about 4 laps left in this thing, we'll have to see if he has the pace. He needs to keep it absolutely perfect. And if he can do that, he has this race in the bag. Where we see now Thomas Simon, Arjen Rootman now making the move. Peter Zuba, Thomas Simon dropping down 3 positions. So just like that, Thomas Simon, the littlest mistake, left the door wide open, and now he's sitting in 5th place. So the battle now goes between Peter Zuba and Arjen Rootman for that 2nd place position.
Commentators could strikes again. We were really seeing Thomas Simon's praises, and then he went off and went wide and immediately lost all the progress that he had made over the last lap. So now the battle for P2, Peter Zuba and Reutemann really close to each other, bumper to bumper, nose to tail action here going on, and they're still suffering a considerable amount of pressure from the 4 cars behind them. This battle has been going on for the past 2 laps, and it doesn't look like it's going to be letting off steam anytime soon.
There we go, folks, just like that. Definitely things changed up on the dime, but that left even more room for Gael Valero, now up 3.5 seconds with only a few laps left in this. Peter Zuba doing an amazing job. I love the onboard views right here, seeing Zuba and Bruno De Carmo battling down side by side, but Peter Zuba has just a little bit more pace. Going into here, we'll have to see these guys looking now to make a move. It's looking like they're just going to keep it safe into the train, trying to wait to get into that draft and live to fight for the next corner. So these guys, Thomas Simon being one of the few VR drivers we have out here, I always wonder about that. I'm going to have to test it myself, whether or not it's a little bit easier to go into some of these open wheel where you have a little bit more field of view aside from that pillar right in front of you with the halo, but definitely making it just a little bit easier when you're going side by side. Be able to look to the left of you, to the right of you, see how close you can really get to these drivers. But like we said, Thomas Simon was doing great, unfortunately made a bit of an error, and now is trying to fight his way back up. But here we go, folks. Arjen Rootman doing a great job so far of defending off Peter Zuba, but Peter Zuba, we've seen him all season long put up amazing fights. He's going to come out here. We know he's aiming to overtake Arjen Rootman. He only has a couple laps left to do that, but I have no doubt that these two are going to make it interesting all the way to the line. Let's see, folks, as we going 2 wide again out here, 2 by 2 nearly.
Peter Zuba makes a move on the right. Looks like he's been able to make a stick. Thomas Simon tries to do the same on Bruno De Carmo, but failed. And if the TCR race earlier on was like a nice cup of joe, this is like an adrenaline shot to the gut. So much action going on, and we're already near the end of the race. I haven't even noticed. Lap 11 out of 13, Gael Valero inching away in this battle has seen it up to the point where Gael Valero has been able to just pull away. In fact, you don't even see him on the camera of Peter Zuba anymore. But he's not out of the woods yet, of course, Peter Zuba here. Oh, he's gone into the pit lane, actually.
All right, so we'll have to see exactly what happened there. If Peter Zuba had a bit of damage that he needed repaired, I'm sure that may have been what was going on there if he was just starting to lose a bit of pace. So now Peter Zuba out of this race for podium, leaving room for Bruno De Carmo, and Thomas Simon now able to overtake Arjen Rootman. So Rootman going just a bit wide right there, now leaving the door open. It looked like he had 2nd place secure, but now Marcos Saavedra, another person that we've seen earlier on get mixed up, a little bit of mistakes, causing him to drop down the grid now, fighting up from P5. We'll see. He only has about a lap and a half left to make it onto the podium. We've seen him earlier leading the race, but unfortunately now having to drop down into 5th place. This thing is definitely getting interesting, man. I'm glad I didn't try to make prediction any part. Oh, right there. He's going into the back of Arjen Royman. Arjen Royman going off. It looks like a bit of damage to the wing, so we'll have to see a replay on that. I just seen from the rear view, from Saavedra's point of view, it looked like he was just going a bit slow and unfortunately ending up right into the back of him.
Yeah, and the Reutemann was really hard on the brakes there. I don't think Saavedra really figured out that it was going to break that in. And you can see just how much damage Reutemann is taking. His steering is completely gone now. You can see his car is just pulling to the left. And that's going to cost him a lot of speed, a lot of time, and leaves the gate open for more drivers to pile in, take that position away from him. So now he's down to P7, and Tomas Simon really brave there at the start of lap 12, just sending it into turn 1. Oh, that was another driver into the pit lane actually. I think that was Saavedra. He might have suffered a little bit of front wing damage and got into the pit lane. So white flags are out. Hitting on the last side is definitely something you don't want to see happen, but you don't have a choice if you want to make it to the rest of the race. Gaston Kuhabi also going to the pit lane. So right now, the battle for P2 is still heating up. Actually, it might be cooling down a little bit as Bruno Carmo is pulling away from Tomas Simon, but Tomas Simon not going to give up without a fight.
So there we have, folks. That might very well be your top 3 drivers as the white flags flying. Gael Valero now over 6 seconds ahead of Bruno DeCarmo. So now it really will be between Bruno DeCarmo and Tomas Simon as they have a 14-second gap and growing between them. But now we've seen instant between Arjen Royman. So looks like just right there, Arjen Royman was trying to go on the outside, and unfortunately, I'm not sure if there was any contact, but then that slowed him down, and unfortunately, that sent Saavedra right into the back of him, sending him into a spin and getting into Kulabi right there. So those guys having to pit. But here we go, folks. This is what we've been waiting for, as we see now Ralph Benitez, Peter Zuba also battling for 5th place. So the battles throughout the pack are continuing, but it looks like we may very well have Valero to manage getting all the way through first. He was 7th in qualifying, but it's not always about who qualifies the best. It's about taking every single opportunity to get your way up into that first place, and that is what Gael Valero has been doing all day out here so far in heat number 1. So here we go, folks. Bruno DeCarmo, Tomas Simon as Gael Valero just crosses the checkered flag in first place, and it's looking like Bruno DeCarmo, Tomas Simon in 2nd and 3rd place. So a lot of drama out here, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears shed out on the racetrack so far. But like we said, we still have one more heat to go. Definitely things got very, very interesting out here in heat number 1.
Yeah, especially near the end, there was a lot of things going on at once. I don't think we have even kept track of a lot of the stuff that was happening because we were so focused on this race on the front half of the pack. It was very, very close, but here comes the drivers as they're crossing the line right now. I can see from the corner of my eye, Martin Chico just barely scraping by in that 15th spot, which means he will be starting on the pole position yet again for the next heat. We'll have to see if he'll be able to keep it steady this time around, but if the first lap of this heat was any indicator, we might be in for a ride.
So there we go, folks. A bunch of drama going on here in heat 1, but like we said, knowing this track and these cars, we expected nothing less coming into this race. But there we see, looks like Martin Chico will round out that 15th place position. So we have 3 great drivers that unfortunately are going to have to fight their way all the way from the back of the pack. So that being David Toth, Dino Filippo, Gustavo Ariel, getting caught up in some incidents early on and having to go into the pits. So especially Gustavo Ariel showing great pace in qualifying. David Toth, Dino Filippo, those guys, I have no doubt that they can make it up. We'll see, put their skills to the test. Like we mentioned earlier, right now your BenQ session winner, Gael Valero coming in first place, followed by Bruno DeCarmo in 2nd, Tomas Simon in 3rd, Vander Dantas in 4th place, Ralph Benitez 5th, Peter Zuba 6th, Pedro Dean 7th, Marco Saavedra 8th, Jackson Ascendra in 9th, and rounding out your top 10 of heat number 1, Diego Villarreal. So we're going to head back to the grid as the drivers are eagerly awaiting heat number 2.
Yeah, our drivers on the line right now. Green flags will be going on in relatively short order once all the cars are gridded up. So here comes, they're starting to rev their engines now, getting ready for it, and already we know how much how action-packed Heat 1 is. I'm expecting the same here for Heat 2. We'll have to see if you make it through the first lap safely. And here comes the green flag, it's just off. Him State in P2 didn't have the best launch right now. It seems like a lot of drivers are taking advantage of that. You can already see They're coming up to the front of the pack right now. Martin Chico still holding on to the lead as they're entering turn 1 right about now. One driver actually went a little bit wider, trying to avoid any big incidents happening. I think that was Bruno De Carbo actually. No, it wasn't. It was looks to be one of the other drivers that were in the back of the pack. But they're keeping it nice and steady. They don't want to see any more turn 1 shenanigans. And right now, the battle is so close between them.
And then we see a few of the drivers going a bit wide right there, putting their tires onto the gravel. So, like we said, I'm not going to say anything just yet. Lap 1, we've seen quite a bit going on in heat number 1. And these guys now going 2, 3 wide. Oh, a little bit of contact going there into the chicane. So right, that looks like David Toth, Gustavo Ariel, like we mentioned, them having to battle their way all the way from the back of the pack. They got caught up in incidents in heat 1. So now they're definitely trying to be a bit more cautious, but still trying to push it. We know they have the pace to get up onto the podium, so we'll have to see what they can do. Now, Thomas Simon trying to fight off the Delinta Esports drivers. Tim State now holding on to 4th place position. So we see Martin Chico still leading this lap number 1, followed by Pedro Mura and Gaston Kulavi.
That's Resende making move on the Tim State there, forcing Tim State to go wide off the line and trying to see if he can hold on to position. There are 2 widers entering the next left-hander here. But Tim State is still holding on to it. Breaks a little bit early, however. Ooh, little touch of the wheel off Jackson Resende. Going to be end up scrubbing a lot of speed there. Jackson Resende getting a little bit of a love tap on the back there, but I guess winner is still holding on to that position right now. But Edgar Reutemann is right behind him, and they're entering lap 2 right now. Turn 1 still very close. Anyone's called. Oh, Petrodine just got tapped, and he goes off.
So just like that, unfortunately for Pedrodine, sending him to the back of the grid. David Toth, though, in the pit lane, so we might just have to see exactly what happened. Unfortunately, David Toth, they're not having the greatest of days. Got into an incident in heat number 1, had to go into the pits, and now having to enter the pits once more for heat number 2. So, unfortunate race. We're looking forward to seeing David Toth, what he could do out here in these F4 machines. We've seen him in qualifying, but just like that, we haven't seen incidents going on in qualifying all the way to heat 1, heat 2. So, we'll have to see these guys pushing it to the very limit. Martin Chico, Pedro Mura, and Gaston Kulavi now having a 3-way battle for the lead. We're on lap number 2, folks, and things have already started heating up just a bit. We'll have to see if Martin Chico, he was able to get it onto the pole position with that top 15 reverse grid. Will he be able to defend against Mura? We'll see as Mura goes now for the inside line, going side by side. Here we go, folks. We'll have to see. It goes Martin Chico now still barely holding on to the Delinta Esports driver. So we have Delinta versus Sart. We've seen this all season long as we have a battle for P5 going on in the background as well. So here we go. Martin Chico doing an excellent job so far, holding on to that top spot as we get ready to go into lap number 3. So there we are, 2 laps into this, and the racing is already getting close. I can't wait to see what happens on the final couple of laps.
Yeah. Chico swerving a little bit to stop Pedro Mora from getting any funny ideas about trying to overtake him. He's driving a little bit erratically and trying to keep the defensive posture up. Pedro Mora unable to really make any headways. Had a few attempts but didn't really have a good go at it, or rather didn't really have the chance to seize the opportunity again. And oh, that was a big accident there. Gustavo Ariel and Saavedra were both involved in that, and that's going to be a real bad damper on them, especially for Gustavo Ariel, who really didn't have the best heat 1.
So there we go now, Peter Zuber towards the back. Marco Saavedra, unfortunately now, having to go into the pits, having to get towed, and it looks like he will be out of this race. So Marco Saavedra doing great in the TCR cars. Unfortunately, out here in race number 2 of the day, he's had not the best luck getting involved into some other drivers. See, right there towards the back too. Looks like that might have been Jackson Assange getting a little bit squirrely out there. So these guys, like we said, definitely the tires out here are not playing well with this warm weather, the track being super hot out here. These guys not having the best grip on those rear tires. There's always a bit of lockup, so right there, that looks like Martin Chico is doing a great job. And now, joining the track, almost taking someone else out. So right there, very dangerous, getting back onto the track, but that will send him all the way back down now, P10. So from 1st to 10th place and dropping, unfortunately, Martin Chico, but that's all it takes out here, folks. Just the slightest error to end up getting sent back down.
Oh, I think that driver just went off. Chico just went off again at the end of that lap. Just saw his car sliding on the gravel there, and here's the incident between Saavedra and actually Peter Zuba. I thought it was Gustavo Ariel that was involved, but he's still sitting comfortably in P8 right now, so definitely wasn't him. Peter Zuba, they're not going to be too happy with that result as well. Also ending up in the pit lane, David Toff is coming out right now. and Tim State as well as Saavedra are still in the pits trying to repair all that damage. So it gives room for the other drivers to come back in. Tomas Simon in that P6 right now, made up 7th position. This is start the race now, battling with Edgar Reutemann and Ralph Benitez for this P4. Oh, it's really dangerous, especially when it comes to these chicanes, because big 3-car incident at the start. A car just goes flying. A couple of cars go flying. That was a big crash.
So just like that, the entire grid getting shaken up, having a huge crash out there. So now that's 5 drivers in the pits. So man, I did not expect that. I knew things were going to get a bit dicey out here in heat number 2, but nothing like that. So like I said, folks, not even a quarter of the way through this race, and things are already looking crazy. Or we're about a third of the way, through. So lap 4 of 13, and just like that, that's left a lot of these drivers in the middle of the pack able to go all the way up front. I'm seeing that in the chat now. If this was real life, that absolutely would have been a red flag moment with a crash that huge out there on the grid. So those drivers, though, able to get off the track, unfortunately getting towed to the pit. But here we see picture-in-picture Gaston Kulavi on there, but on the screen too. Ooh, Gaston Kulavi just flying over those curbs. So like we said, those curbs very, very dangerous and sends him flying. But right now, the action's towards the front. We see Ayrton Reutemann, Bruno De Carmo right here going side by side, as well as Eric looking onto the podium. So here we go, folks. The action is heating up. Gustavo Ariel able to battle his way all the way from the back of the pack, now up 14 positions, looking to get up onto the podium.
Yeah, that was really, really unfortunate. Both of them just jumped the chicane and then couldn't regain control of the car once they landed back on their 4 wheels. It's Gustavo Ariel putting 2 wheels on the grass and trying to make a move onto Bruno De Carmo. Doesn't make it past Reutemann either, and you get another chicane where any move is just so dangerous to perform, especially if you end up taking the wrong line through it. Ooh, now this is a battle heating up for P1, another 5-car handle here. A scrum, I guess you can call it there. It's a bit of a scrap going on between these 5 drivers. Pedro Mura is taking this opportunity to just pull away from the rest of the pack, doing a pretty good job at it, about 2.7 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Bruno De Carmo not far behind him as well. This battle for P3 really going to be intense, and just like that, that was, I think that was Dino Filippo. He just got tapped and then went off.
Damn, man, it's just right there. We had Dino Filippo, unfortunately, just getting a bit tight in there going into the chicane and ended up spinning out, dropping him down. So Dino Filippo, another driver, unfortunately was doing great, but now gets sent down the grid. So that's going to leave plenty of room for these other drivers. We have Pedro Mura, Bruno De Carmo, Ayrton Reutemann up there in the top 3, but we see your points leader Gael Valero right on the tail of Reutemann, as well as Gustavo Ariel behind him. So we're going to have to see if these drivers now looking to make the inside move, just peeking in, and we see the incident there, Dino Filippo. So looks like he was going into the inside and unfortunately just did not have enough room right there when they're going out of the corner, unfortunately ending up spinning out, dropping down the grid. So we can see right now, though, Ayrton Reutemann he's only been down 1 position. Gael Valero now up 12, so Valero up onto the podium, but these guys back and forth trading blows. We'll see Valero now looking to the outside as Ayrton Reutemann making a great move into the chicane. So side by side, we'll see if he can get that side draft. He has a little bit better line, but here going to this next right-hander, Ayrton Reutemann looking to take that position back. Nope, he's able to do it. So Gael Valero, just like that, pushing it a little bit harder, able to get into podium contention.
Yeah, and really props have to be given to Gael Valero. He's been so calm and collected under the absolute amount of chaos that has been going on, and we're not even halfway through this race yet, so there could still be more on the way. But Gael Valero up to P3 right now in a very good spot. His closest competitor, Jackson Resende, is back down in P11, so after today the gap is going to be a substantial amount larger than it was at the start. Right now, he's still trying to fend off Edgar Reutemann, but he is slowly increasing the gap. Now he has to make up about 6 seconds in order to catch up to Pedro Moro.
So there we go, folks. Jackson is NJ, like we said, is sitting down in 11th place. So that gap is only going to increase, like you mentioned, Damon. But here we go. Gustavo Ariel, the Team Redline driver, we'll see. He's able to fight his way up 13 positions now, looking for a spot on the podium, but he still has to get through Ayrton Reutemann and Gael Valero if he wants to do that. There's quite a bit of gap between the top 3 drivers and the rest of the pack. So we'll have to see. Lap 7 of 13, just over halfway through this race. anything can still happen. We didn't expect to see some of those incidents, so these guys just getting a little bit more aggressive. You can see how aggressive those curbs are right there. Gael Valero able to take advantage of that earlier to get up onto the podium. Now Gustavo Ariel just over that, but we'll have to see as we've seen cars flying over that, quite literally all 4 tires up in the air. So right now Ayrton Royman have to play defense against one of the best drivers out there.
Yeah, and just looking at the onboard of these cars as the drivers are fighting to keep them under control, even as a spectator, it can be quite scary. I couldn't imagine myself being on that track, having to face a substantial amount of pressure and still manage to keep the car under control. So these drivers, amazing AMX fans, and you could, and viewers at home could definitely be a part of this if you sign up to join any of our races. We're rounding out season 5 in a few weeks, but next season is always an opportunity.
So there we go, folks. So like we said, the action it's been crazy all day long. That's all I can say out here in these F4 cars. It's just been a bit of chaos. So the ones that have been able to get through it have been managing that chaos very well. But here we go. Great drive still as Gustavo Ariel able to close that gap on Ayrton Royman. Now less than a tenth, looking to get to that rear wheel of him, seeing if he can get it to the inside. Will he have a better braking marker on this? But it looks like still there's quite a bit of grip on the outside line there. So we'll have to see now if he gets into the draft of Royman, who's going to be first into this next corner. So we're getting back into the chicanes. We'll just have to wait and see. Looks like, ooh, right here again. So these guys playing it still a little bit safe. I think seeing that wreck happen earlier on, definitely messing with these guys just a little bit, not pushing it quite as hard through that chicane as they were earlier.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to take any unnecessary risks, especially when you're really close to the last few laps of the race. Try to avoid any more incidents happening, but you still have to fight for that position. You still have to try and see if you can seize any opportunity, and it looks like Gustavo Ariel is trying to force Reutemann into making any sort of mistake, but he ends up going a little bit wide and sliding out that corner, scrubbing off a lot of speed. So Reutemann still holding on to that P4 for the time being, but Gustavo Ariel still not giving up, and these chicanes are just so scary to navigate. You can see the car is just really getting unsettled under the amount of steering that the drivers have to put in to keep the car pointing straight and true.
And I was just looking at it now, so from the timing from earlier, our results, we had Gael Valero and Bruno De Carmo. Looks like these may be the 2 guys battling it out for the overall race winners. Oh, right there, Gustavo Ariel now peeking to the inside, looking to make the move happen, but will Ayrton Royman be able to hold on to it on the outside? Looks like Gustavo Ariel just inching him out, so we'll have to see as now they're going side by side. Royman, Ariel, we'll see what they have to do right here. The 2, ooh, going very, very close right there, a bit on the outside, but that leaves Pedro Dean as well to able to take advantage of that battle now, being able to get over Gustavo Ariel. So these guys now, a 3-way battle for 4th place is ensuing. We'll have to see who comes out on top of this, guys. We're lap 9, Gustavo Ariel able to take that place back, and now back on the hunt for Ayrton Royman.
Yeah, I swear I saw some contact earlier on, but it looks like these drivers have managed to keep the cars under control, and this battle is no closer to ending than it was a couple of laps ago. Ayrton Reutemann just really pushing his car into a defensive stance, trying to avoid Gustavo Ariel from really making a move, but here comes Gustavo Ariel on the outside, tries to go for a send, doesn't look like he can make it as he switches back into the inside to try and get a pass line out, not able to do so. Ayrton Reutemann doing a good job of blocking it, and this battle slowing down these cars to a point where right now it's a 3-way battle for P4. Any one mistake could end up sending these drivers packing, and you definitely don't want that when you're so late into the race.
And right here, so back to what I was saying earlier, looks like we may have a battle for the overall race win today. Oh, Gustavo Ariel, every time I try to say that, he goes and makes a great move. So right there, just getting on the brakes a little bit later, diving to the inside, able to get that. So unfortunately, Ayrton Royman leaving the door open just a little bit, and Gustavo Ariel seeing it, making the split-second decision to go to the inside, and now holding on to that 4th place position. So now, if Ariel wants to get onto the podium, he's going to have to make up about 5 seconds of time. So I'm not sure if he'll be able to do that, as we only have about 4 laps left in here. And Royman now back in the draft, looking to return the favor on Gustavo Ariel. Here he goes, going to the outside. Ooh, but a great defensive move right there. So we'll have to see Gustavo Ariel going to the outside right before he goes under braking right at the last second. So right there, textbook move, but that's one of the great things, I'm sure, whenever you have teammates such as Max Verstappen for Team Redline. These guys, they get in a lot of practice, they do a lot of streams together, so being able to see that pay off. That is exactly why Gustavo Ariel has earned his spot on that racing team, and he's showing it out here today.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Pedro Dean is still just slowly inching his way back onto Reutemann's tail. He wants a piece of that action as well. Wants to see if he can try and make it past Reutemann here, he's been under a considerable amount of pressure for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 laps, and the pressure just isn't really letting go. It's like a giant cooker that's just waiting to completely explode, or a powder keg that's being ignited. But regardless of that, he's still managing to keep a cool head, holding on to that P5 right now. Pedro Dean probably going to get a little bit antsy as we're approaching the end of the race. He wants to see if he can make the move as soon as possible. Don Valero still closing the gap between him and Bruno De Carmo. He wants to try and see if he can make it into that P2 spot and cinch the overall race win away from him. But we'll have to look at that battle closer to the end at the time being, because Pedro Dean losing a bit of time. Drivers in front of him definitely trying to push each other to the limits. Ooh, a lot of car onto that gravel there. We'll scrub up quite a bit of speed.
So there we see, folks, the battle still ensuing between Gustavo Ariel and Ayrton Reutemann. I think we're going to have this possibly down to the end of the line as long as these drivers can keep it clean. They're getting really close to each other. Reutemann trying to go to the outside line right there. We'll see as now they're going side by side. Will he have just enough as we're going into the chicanes? Gustavo Ariel able to just hold on to it. So we've seen some textbook defending, but now we see Bruno De Carmo having to fight off Gael Valero. So Valero, there was a bit of a gap between them earlier, now able to close that. So we have a battle for P2 going on right here, as well as the battle for P4. So with only just a few laps left in this thing, things are definitely going to be heating up. Like I said, I really hope these drivers are able to keep it clean, but I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen what we've seen all day long of just the slightest of taps into the tires, able to send them off into the gravel, into the grass, sometimes into the wall, getting back on track. But like I said, it is all Gael Valero making the move over Bruno De Carmo. So now Valero getting into second place, but Bruno De Carmo now not letting him have it, trying to get the over-under. Unfortunately, now if we fall in line, we'll see if he has the draft to take back that P2 spot.
Yeah, they're coming up to the back straight now, so there is going to be a little bit of draft that Bruno De Carmo can use, but the gap between him and Gael Valero is increasing ever so slightly, so we'll have to see whether or not that draft actually does anything for him. Meanwhile, Gustavo Ariel is pulling away from Reutemann and Dean here. As they're passing a back marker, have to make sure that the other drivers in the back as well make it pass. It looks like they will. Meanwhile, Gustavo Ariel, really slippery into the chicane there, a bit shaky on the loose coming out of it, giving Reutemann an opportunity to see whether or not he can make it pass, but the gap between them is just, it's substantial enough that Gustavo Ariel isn't under any immediate danger, but definitely still have to be looking out for that.
And now we can see Gael Valero's, he's trying to close in the gap between him and Pedro Moura, but we'll have to see if he has enough pace to do so. There's still just under 2 seconds between first and second place. Now looking through the entire grid too, it looks like so far we have Ralph Benitez with the fastest lap, who is sitting in that 12th place position. So he got the fastest lap in heat number 1, and so far he has the fastest lap in heat number 2. But like we said, folks, it's not all just about who can set the fastest lap times. There are a lot of factors that have played in here, and today the biggest factor has been these drivers getting super aggressive. As now Ayrton Reutemann, ooh, look how close those wheels are getting to each other as they're heading down the straight. These guys, the white flag flies. It is down to this. The gloves have come off. We'll have to see Gustavo Ariel now. Will have to do everything in his power to play defense, keep off Ayrton Reutemann. But Ayrton Reutemann looking to claw back any little bit of space that he has. So now this is going to be the defensive drive of Gustavo Ariel for the day. We'll have to see if his training has gotten him into here. But folks, this is definitely why he was drafted from a sim racer to be a real life driver, and he's showing it out here all day long. We'll have to see if he can hold on to this. But the great battle still going on. Gustavo Ariel, Ayrton Reutemann.
Have to be really careful on the exits that chicane. You take the angle wrong, you scrub off way too much speed for your liking, and other drivers can take opportunity in that, which is what happened to Ayrton Reutemann at the very last lap before the start finish straight. He took advantage of Gustavo Ariel's relatively poor exit out of that chicane and then just started powering it through. But he was unable to keep it steady and follow through with the pass until turn 1, where Gustavo Ariel just took the position away from him. So, white flags are out. Reutemann doesn't have that much more opportunity, neither does Pedro Dean. So this battle is still relatively close between them. As you can see, just slightly up in front is, of course, a couple of back markers actually And here he goes, Pedro Mora crossing the line. God, Valero was so close behind him, but just not really able to make that pass happen. The gap was too wide. Pedro Mora is going to be happy with that as he crosses the line. P1 down, and Bruno Carmo in P3.
Right there, the great battle comes to an end. Gustavo Ariel able to hold on to that 4th place position over Ayrton Reutemann. But Reutemann, definitely those two guys battling it out back and forth for so long there towards the end of the race. It's always awesome when you see drivers like that even though they're not fighting for the win, they are still fighting with what they have, fighting for their lives. And just like that, Gustavo Ariel able to best Ayrton Reutemann by 0.6 of a second near the finish. But like you said, Pedro Mora coming away pretty with ease. We had a lot of those guys behind him really putting up those battles that let him just start getting that gap all the way until Gael Valero able to battle out with Bruno De Carmo, overcoming Bruno De Carmo on the last few laps and slowly closing in that gap. So I feel like if we had maybe a couple laps left in this race or a couple more laps, we might have seen a great battle going on between Valero and Mora for the finish. But there we go, folks. We'll have to wait and see what the overall race results, as I know Valero and Bruno De Carmo from qualifying all the way to Heat 1 and Heat 2, those drivers putting up some points on the board. But one of the big things we've been talking about all day, Jackson Asenje unfortunately coming in 11th place out here in Heat 2, so that will further the gap between Gael Valero and Jackson Asenje in the overall championship points. But Damon, man, that was definitely a crazy thing as we can see there, BenQ session winner Pedro Mora, so looking happy to have that win out here in Heat number 2. Gael Valero coming up very close, just under a second between him and Pedro Mora. So Gael Valero 2nd place. 3rd place we have Bruno De Carmo. In 4th we have Gustavo Ariel. 5th place Ayrton Reutemann. 6th Pedro Dean. 7th we have Dino Filippa. 8th place Diego Villarreal. 9th Evandro Dantas. 10th Peter Zuba. 11th Jackson Asenje. 12th Ralph Benitez. 13th Gaston Gulavi. And unfortunately we had a lot of drivers end up in the pits, end up coming laps down. Tim State, Martin Chico, David Toth. So unfortunately for those guys, not having the best of races out here today. But there's always tomorrow. We'll see if they can come back swinging. And as well, Ralph Benitez able to get the fastest lap 2 times in a row. So big ups to Ralph Benitez. Although he didn't win, he was still the fastest out here, got fastest in qualifying, and had the fastest laps in both heats. So man, I'm like we've seen earlier, man, just a loss of words. I feel like when we have so much going on out here today. But Damon, what was your highlight of that race?
At this point, it's kind of hard to decide because I can't think of whether or not the actual finishing positions or the crashes were more interesting or could be used as highlights. Can I tell you for a fact though, the highlight is me breaking out into a sweat over how much stuff was going on over the past couple of heats. So we're gonna have to get the drivers' opinions on what happened there.
Yeah, definitely. And one of those drivers, like we've seen, battling it all out. I hope to hear from Gustavo Ariel here very soon. But like I said, folks, all of you watching at home, you can make sure and get us every single weekend. We are here on Twitch and YouTube Live. We love seeing you out here supporting, seeing you out here in chat, as well as following all of our social media. So while we're waiting on the results, we might have to hear what happened from these drivers' point of views.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
So I think we're still waiting on a couple of those guys. Yeah, so a couple of those guys. But like I said, I mean, we're still looking forward to tomorrow. Like we said, the big thing, Gael Valero won the championship last year. Definitely, he's showing, I'd say the biggest thing is consistency. So when you have come in here and are consistent day in and day out, even though he missed a couple of races, so there was, I believe, 3 races that he still missed, he's still holding on to that championship spot. So we still have several weeks going into this. But like I said, we're going to head in over to the interview room really quick to hear from our drivers. So I'm joined here with Gustavo Ariel. Gustavo, an amazing battle going on in Heat 2. We've seen Heat number 1, unfortunately, ended up having to go to the pits. What was your mindset going into Heat number 2?
Well, to be honest, it's one of my first times basically driving this F4 at this track. I have other event, I think, a year ago, so It's a really nice track to battle as well because you have some little straights, so you need to do it. You need to move very fast to gain some position. So yeah, basically I was practicing a bit on the qualifying to understand what is the best lap of the tire, how I can control my brake bias and stuff, because it's a different setup that we drive. But yeah, it was really nice. On the start, I think I did a very optimistic move on Pedro and went wrong, as you guys saw on the first one. I had a little netcode with him, but anyway, we're going to crash even if you don't have netcode, so it was my fault on that one. And I just repair my car and come back to do more laps to get used to it and to prepare for race 2. And on race 2, of course, I gained a lot of position the first 3 laps, and I just got stuck for a left side damage, so that's why we're losing a lot of straight line speed on that one. But yeah, it's always a good fun to race here. Of course, driving Team Red Line now, the schedule is very short, so we're trying to do some rounds here, but not too much because we have a lot of preparation going on. So it's very nice to have every round a driver here of Team Red Line. I like to watch, I like to commentate with my teammates. So yeah, it's a really nice combo to drive, and driving with my Brazilian friends here as well. It's very nice. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity again.
So you talked about, everyone knows out here from last season, going into this season, that you're now a member of Team Redline. But one thing that we were talking about earlier on in the day, and I want to bring up, is now you have a new teammate, yourself and Dino Filippa. Of course, you guys were out in the Racing Prodigy draft. I want to say a big congratulations to that. That's just a huge step for the entire sim racing community. I want to go back to that. I mean, it's been a few weeks now since the draft, but what were your emotions whenever you got picked as a first-round draft pick to go have a professional contract?
Well, I think my first emotion, especially with Dino, is teaching some English, and because he's on the restaurant, he don't know how to ask for fried free. So yeah, no, I'm kidding. But Dino is a really nice guy, and of course he's laughing. I'm streaming, he's laughing on the chat. So he's a really nice guy. I like to talk with him, and we're speaking mainly Spanish with Portuguese, something like that when we're together. So yeah, will be a very good opportunity for all that sim racing drivers. And yeah, I'm really happy to have this opportunity, and we're going to drive together in the United States in some months, so it will be very exciting to see that happening. And we also shared the car on the first Prodigy event that we had in Atlanta, so yeah, it was a really nice opportunity, and to have him together with my teammate, it's very nice because he's a very chill guy, and of course all the other 2 teammates very nice. So I think it will be a good time. It's time to prepare. It's time to understand more about the real car. So yeah, it's really nice to have a lot of drivers here, good drivers here on the series, and yeah, excited for the next opportunity here.
Awesome. Well, it's always great to have you, and we know now especially that you have more responsibilities, not only with Team Redline, but now in real life. So we hope to see you more often, but like we said, we understand if the schedule has been getting a bit crazy, but we always love having you out here in AMX, especially when we see battles like today between you and Ayrton Royman going on all of heat number 2. But like I said, I want to say once again, congratulations for everything that you have going on in real life, going on with Team Redline. I was able to hop in one of the streams one of the days, and it's great when you guys do that too. So, keep up all of the good work. We hope to see you out here continuously, especially now in the AMX 20. And congratulations. Is there anyone out there that you want to give a shout out to before we move on?
To be honest, I want to say a big thank you to the chat, and a big thank you to DJ, because we talked a lot last year, and I was not on Team Redline. I was trying to promote the series, and to have a AMX logo on the Redline car is a very nice opportunity. I'm proud of that. So yeah, we keep in contact, so it's very nice, and I want to say a big thank you to the chat who's supporting the race. We're having a lot of fun together. So all the Brazilian guys on the stream is very nice, and I want to congratulate you guys on the broadcast. Very nice job, and yeah, let's keep going. So thank you so much, and see you soon.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing what the future holds for you, and like we said, few weeks left. We hope that you can join us at least a couple more times, but we understand if you can. So, all right, thank you once again from the entire AMX team. Thanks for everyone out there, the viewers, everyone as well, and we'll see you in the next race.
Thank you, and see you soon. Bye-bye, guys.
There we heard it from the man himself, Gustavo Ariel, one of these drivers, showing that sim racing, if you take it serious, can absolutely lead to great things. We've seen, when we're talking about it, we've seen chat getting involved. Kind of the same thing that went on with Gran Turismo a while back. Jan Martinborough, one of those drivers. So I hope to see a lot more drivers out here. You know, him and Dino Filippa now teammates, but definitely I feel like there are plenty of drivers we've seen out here in AMX that could do amazing in real life. But now we're going to head it over to another driver, Pedro Mura.
Hello,
Pedro,
everyone.
congratulations on that heat number 2 win. How are you feeling after that?
Hello, Kevin. So it was a great race. Like I wasn't expecting to win, but I had no lucky on the race 1, so I was sent to back off the grid. So I got the reversed grid, and I did a good start. I think I overtook 2 guys at the start, almost going to the front. But then it was very hard to overtake. Here is a track that it's kind of hard. You need to push very hard to overtake. You need to push very hard to be fast. So, and it's easy to commit mistakes. So that was what happened with the guys in front. So the world opened up for me. So I could take that P1 and manage the gap for P2 and guarantee the win in the end. I think it was my first win here, so very happy with that. Finally, some luck on my side.
The biggest factor going into Heat 2, because we've seen you're about right in the middle of the pack in qualifying. We had a lot of fast guys out here today. Like you said, you obviously had to push the car very hard in here. What would you say was the biggest thing that led to you winning Heat number 2?
Well, as I said, you need to push to the limit to be fast here. So I think I was like, okay, I am already on the podium spot, so I will just not push everything. Like I will play safe and see what happens. So I guess the guys in front were pushing, and then they hit the curb on a wrong way and spun, and then the chaos happened. So I saw the gap for the car behind, and I was controlling that. Like I was not pushing very hard because it's easy to commit mistakes. So as I was keeping a gap of 3 seconds to Bruno. So I was like, okay, I can keep like that, and I will just bring the car home and guarantee this win.
So we've seen that, I mean, for most of Heat 2, you were leading the race. What was going through your mind once you started seeing Gael Valero in second and he was closing that gap on those last few laps?
Yeah, I saw he closing the gap, and before he overtook Bruno, I thought Bruno could keep him behind. So I was like, okay, Bruno will fight with him, and they will lose time. But then he could overtake, but it was like I think 2 laps or 3 remaining. So I saw he was almost 1 second per lap faster, but I was not desperate because, like in that, if I didn't commit any mistake, if I just kept my pace, he would need at least 1 more lap to get to me. So I was like, keep calm and just bring it home.
Awesome. Well, like I say, big congratulations. You look good up on that top step in first place. So hopefully we do see you out here more and more. I'd say so far this season, what's been probably your favorite car track combination?
Well, I love the Formula. So this car this season, I've been driving a lot the Formula 4. So it's nice to race on that. And also Zolder is a track that I like because it was my first win in the sim racing a lot of years ago. So it has something special. So it was a great combo today.
Amazing. And one last question. So I'd say, you know, we've already seen that F4. I think that's become a lot of people's favorites, as well as GT4. What's something that you'd hope we see in the future out here at AMX that we might not have right now?
I miss the W12 and W13. I like to race that cars, but it's been a long time I don't see them here. the Mercedes Formula Ones.
Well, hey, it's still I still say there's enough time for next season that all the producers watching right now, you heard it first from the drivers, they want faster cars. So we need to get these guys faster cars, faster tracks, and I mean, you know, now with AMX 20, I definitely think that that could make things interesting. But once again, a big congratulations, Pedro Mura, your first AMX, your big win out here at Zolder. We hope to see you back coming on, and, you know, big congratulations. I want to say preemptive congratulations, because I expect we're going to see you up on that podium a lot more. So congratulations. We will see you very soon. Hopefully you come back, join us tomorrow. But until next time, it's always glad to have you out here.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everyone.
So there we go, hearing from two of the top drivers out here today in the F4 cars. And I was going to see about one of those, I seen Gustavo, you know, them talking about the relationship now between him and Dino Filippa as teammates in real life. And there was a bit of a joke that they had, kind of talking about with his English and them ordering fries, potatoes, different things that we'll have to see, you know, get Dino's side of the story one of these days in the interview room from what happened out there at the Racing Prodigy. But nonetheless, man, two great races today, Damon. Definitely going to be some more great races tomorrow, and we'll have to see. I guess I love doing this, so sum it up in one word. What was the second race of the day for you?
I guess the only word I can really think of is intense. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen a race with that much action going on, whether it was battle for positions or just like, I mean, we saw cars fly in that last heat, so I think I've pretty much covered all the bases for this time around.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get out here. Flying cars out here, but like we said, I believe we have the results ready, so there was a lot of stuff that the racing stewards have to check in on. But in that top spot, it looks like that will be Marco Saavedra right now, coming in first place. Big congrats to him. Second place, Gael Valero. Oh, sorry, we got into the wrong one. That was the results from earlier today. My apologies from that. So, but there you can see a recap. If you missed the race earlier on today, now you know Marco Saavedra won that. So it was a great race. I highly suggest if you got in here late, go back, watch the VOD later on YouTube. But now we have the actual results coming up from the F4 races. So I think we have a bit of a clue. There was a lot of back and forth. I know Gael Valero doing very well as Ralph Benitez being super fast out there. But there you go, folks. So it does look like that will be Gael Valero out here in the F4 cars, taking home the overall win, followed by Ralph Benitez in second place, absolutely blazing fast. And in third, Bruno De Carmo. Fourth place, we got Pedro Mura. Fifth place, Tomas Simon. Sixth, Pedro Dean. Seventh place, Gustavo Ario. Seventh, also tying for seventh, both of these drivers, Dino Filippa as well. So the two real-life teammates there tying for seventh place. Ninth place, another tie between Evandro Dantes and Peter Zuba. So there you have it, folks. Those are your results of the day. I'm very excited to see what happens. Like we've seen, Jackson Asenge, unfortunately not on here. That's going to let that gap go for the overall points just a little bit more. But definitely there's going to be room for tomorrow to start making up that gap. So it's been a great day. Damon, I'm looking forward for tomorrow. Again, we have our ACC races. Everyone out there at home, I want to say a big shout out to all of you. But that will be it from us. Signing out. Kevin and Damon out here today. Great races, great battles, and we have a few weeks left in this, but we will see you all tomorrow for Assetto Corsa Competizione, as well as another AMX 5 iRacing after that. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.